Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, it is Saturday night and we are here for what is going to be the official curtain raiser of what is going to be a fantastic championship here on the Positive Perception YouTube channel. This is the Positive Slip Boys Endurance Championship on the infamous Assetto Corsa Competizione. As you can probably tell already, we are here at the Autodromo Nazionale di Imola for the first round of this 6-round championship. And we have a 2.4-hour race for you this evening and 5 to follow. From tonight's race, we head to Silverstone on the 19th of February. We then head to Spa on the 12th of March. Kyalami follows on the 2nd of April with Donington and Suzuka finishing off the season. And I'm delighted to be calling this race this evening. My name is David Wressell. I'll be your lead commentator for this evening. And I'm joined by a fellow commentator and first-time broadcaster, so give him a wave and make sure he gets all those fantastic camera angles this evening. The owner of Positive Perception, Mark Raddenbury. Mark, welcome along this evening, my friend. First of all, how are you? And are you nervous about making sure you bring us all that juicy action tonight? I think we will hear hopefully in just a second. Hopefully we'll catch him in just a moment. But in the meantime, qualifying well underway. 25-minute qualifying session suffixed by, as I mentioned, that 2.4-hour endurance race. It's a team's championship. So every team has a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 3 drivers, and should be hopefully. So we've got 17 teams out at the moment, 19 in total registered. So hopefully we'll get to see those other 2 join in. But I've been reliably informed that we've got a fantastic lineup nonetheless from members of the Positive Perception team, the Slip and Grip community, and the Bois community in the sim racing scene as well. So really looking forward to this one. Mark, hopefully we can hear you now. You looking forward to tonight?
Yes, I am. Sorry about that. Do apologise to everyone. Not a clue.
Always fun when you get these technical difficulties at the start. We'll hear him in a few moments. I've no doubt we'll get to that in just a second. But in the meantime, we should hopefully start to see some times coming up on the board. We're following Andy Benton from the Slip and Grip Champion Senders team so far. One of a few BMWs M4s on the grid for this evening and for this championship. We can see a nice little spread of cars in there as well. We've got a couple of Aston Martins, an Audi, an AMG Mercedes, a Lamborghini and a Ferrari to suit as well. So nice spread of cars on the field. Should be interesting to see how things change. I can only imagine that those using the BMW probably picked it before the balance of performance change that Kunos did a few weeks ago, and luckily, fortunately for them, they've decided to stick with it nonetheless. We can see there Andy Benton puts a time on the board that's a 1:45.0, puts him P5 at the moment, but he's just been pushed down into P6. You see it's Josh Chandler at the top, Mark Neutelings with Obersen, Copeland and Burke are the top 5 at the moment, and then you see Andy Benton, who we're watching at the moment, sitting in P6 in that number 17 car. Still a few people to come out. You can see Purcell's still in the pit lane, so everyone below him, or was below him, will be waiting to put some times in. Up until now, we can see Colin Dunn in the Positive Perception machine, the 750 Ferrari, has put a time on the board. As we now see Chris Rock coming through toes, getting a little bit sideways there, but fortunately managing to keep it in a straight line. Mark, are you there? Can we hear you?
You can hear me. I am here. Just about.
Still can't just yet, but we'll be sure to get him at some point. Otherwise, I will keep you entertained, hopefully, through the remainder of this evening. I have no doubt, and we will, hopefully see plenty of action throughout the race and throughout the championship as well. As I said, 6 rounds in this one. We're starting at Imola this evening. It's the inaugural, it's the curtain raiser of this Positive Slip Boys Championship. As I said, co-hosted between Positive Perception, Slip and Grip and the Bois sim racing communities, all of which do have their own championships going on as well. Positive Perception race on a Thursday night in ACC. They've got a GT series in there, which is a multi, which is fantastic. And then there's a couple of other ones in the Slip and Grip and the Boys community as well, which we'll talk about before the evening is over. I believe I've heard Mr. Raddenbury in the background. Mark, can we hear you now? Are you there?
I have no idea. I hope so. Can you hear me? Hello.
I can hear you fine. Hopefully everyone else watching can as well.
Let's hope so.
I'm sure. Absolutely. I'm sure everyone in the chat will be very, very clear and obvious and let us know if they can't hear you, if that is the case. But we'll assume that we can for now. But yeah, going back to what we were talking about a minute ago, what's your kind of thoughts are going into this? Of course, you're obviously the lead of the positive perception team, so you obviously one of the 3 communities that are heading up this venture. What was the kind of reasoning behind going for this particular type of championship in terms of endurance format?
A few of us had done the 24 hours at Spa, and we just got to talking basically afterwards how cool it would be to do our own sort of mini endurance series. It turned out the guys at Slip and Grip themselves, they'd been looking at it, so we sort of joined in with them, and then we thought, well, tell you what, we race with another community as well, let's get them involved, and Positive Slip Bois was born.
That sounds lovely. I think it's always nice when that when that kind of thing comes together, and I think there's something quite special about an endurance team-based championship, isn't there? Always brings out the best in these kind of events, and I think it shows you not necessarily who's the quickest driver on paper in terms of one guy, but it needs that teamwork, needs the guys in that team to be able to really come together. Obviously, got to share setups, got to work together as they go through the race. And obviously strategy comes into note as well. Like I say, a 2.4-hour race. It's 144 minutes, so 2 hours and 24 in total. And that will follow us after this 25-minute qualifying session. As you can see, GT3 only, so no GT4s in this one, which should make things a little bit closer in the grid. And hopefully we'll see lots of close times on the leaderboard this evening. You can see now one of the BMWs coming into the Villeneuve chicane, coming through to toast. So that is Mark Neuterlings in one of the positive perception racing teams. That's 666 car. It's that grayscale effect, which looks absolutely beautiful, doesn't it?
I did well.
If you may say so yourself, of course.
Yeah, it's a stunner. The amount of feedback I've had on that livery has been just amazing. You know,
I've seen it. Yeah, like I say, it pops. Even though it's black and white, it looks bizarre. Really clean.
It
really
shouldn't
nice.
work, but it does. And good to see Mark, coming across and giving this a go. He's racing with a guy called James Jackson, first timer in the Positive Perception League 2 seasons ago. So he's stepping up to race with the big Dutchman. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who don't know Mark Neuterlings' sim racing exploits, he's got a very good knack of making a car extremely wide when he has to, which is always good to watch. I've actually known him come to blows with a few people because they don't particularly like it, but I think it's fantastic if he can get in that position. He is a very difficult man to get around. He's got a very good defensive head on him, has Mr. Neuterlings. Hopefully, though, for his sake, he won't have to see too much of that this evening. But yeah, 2 or 3 people in each team, as Mark mentioned there. So Mark joined by James Jackson. Of course, those out on track at the moment are the names you can see on the timing tower on the left-hand side, and that will change as and when the driver changes happen. But typically, I think we'll expect to see just the one driver put a qualifying lap in. You can see Rakesh Patel from the SWMD Ajax racing team, not Ajax, let's get that right, coming out in the Lamborghini, the number 10 machine. Get another beautiful looking car. Yeah, he's just getting his foot on the power. It's a really nice colour. The colour scheme there, the white with the blue, gold and purple, is really eye-catching, I've got to say.
It's a stunning livery. I can't lay any claims. I think it was Sam Woolbridge who did it himself, who partners, Rakesh, I believe, in this car tonight.
I believe you are correct, yes. If you do want to go and have a look at the teams in this, I will tell you what I'll pop a message in the chat now, so you can jump on to Sim Racing GP. You can see exactly who the teams are, the numbers they run, and the members of each team as well, which will certainly help all of us in terms of knowing who is doing what at the moment. But going back to the timing chart, Ant Brown at the moment sitting at the top of the timing chart. He is in effectively pole position at the moment. Oh, as Rakesh Patel just goes a little bit deep into Acqua Minerale and just sticks the back end of that Lamborghini out. Yeah, that is not what you want to be doing, but at least he's got it out early doors. But yeah, Ant Brown and Alex McGee leading the way at the moment. You've got the Lifeboat Legends team of Joe Challoner and I've got Matthew D. I can't quite know his name because I can't see it on Sim Racing GP, but Matthew is in the car with him as well. Hopefully we'll catch his full name when we come back to that. And then we've got Copeland in the number 15 car and the Lexus. That is, in fact, it's Josh Copeland. He's on his own, I can see from what I can see. So
yeah,
it could be a bit lonely tonight.
He's on his own for this round. I believe he's going to be joined by someone else at a later date.
Well, there you go. Hopefully he will be joined by a teammate before too long, before the next round, when we head to that in a couple of weeks' time. You can see the Karma Racing team with Alex O in the car at the moment. Alex Osborne, sorry, he's sat in P4. He's in the pit lane at the moment. As I said, Mark Neuterling's sat in 5th position. And you've got Mac Wellborn, Zenko, Fulton, and Hujak rounding out the top 10. And it looks as though almost Spencer again there. Lovely onboard capture there from on the camera. That Lamborghini Huracan very, very sideways, going into Tamburello and not managing, Villeneuve, sorry, and not quite got his hands on the grip of that Lamborghini just yet, as he's getting a little bit crossed up early doors in his qualifying session. You see there, coming out of Toza all over the grass, which is an interesting way to stay out of the way of Matej Zenko in the 43 Aston Martin, who's going to be on a flying lap now.
Unusual to see an Italian car struggling at Italian track there, David, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. It's common knowledge that the Italian cars normally do favour Imola, to be fair. I think it became a bit of a meme at one point, but I do genuinely think they should do pretty well, although Colin Dunn and Rakesh Patel a little bit further down the timing charts they would hope at the moment. But with 12 minutes and 25 seconds after qualifying, still plenty of time to change track status optimum, so they've got as much grip as they can possibly have. But it is quite warm as well, 37 degrees track temperature, so very important to not kind of scrub all that wear off the tyres and make it quite difficult to get around some of these corners. A lot of high speed corners around Imola circuit, so got to try and kind of work it in easy, so wind the wick up, as it were, and see if you can keep the tyres a little bit cooler before you go onto that flying lap. We'll see Zenko cross the line. Will he improve? P8 at the moment. Crosses the line, doesn't improve, and stays in 8th place for the minute. And like I say, that's Chris Rock just behind him in the number 11 in one of the SWMD Ajax Racing team cars. Him and Marcel, I say, in pit lane at the moment, but I'm sure still plenty of time for him to come out and put some more lap times in, that's for sure. Yeah. See there, going into... Go on, Mark, sorry.
There's plenty of time left. You know, these guys are going to swap over, maybe. Some of them will. You know, give the second driver a chance to have that flyer. Interesting thing is the chat I've been reading in the build-up to this has been strategy for the race itself. I don't know if you want to touch on that. It's sounding interesting from where I've been.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously, one thing we've got to consider is, like I say, it's a team championship at the end of the day. None of these cars are going to reach the full 2.4 hour race on one tank, so there is definitely going to be pit stops, even for Mr. Copeland, of course, who's driving on his own, as we said before. But it is, strategy going to be interesting, of course. Different fuel tank sizes in these cars. I think some of them will obviously make it longer than others. There's no Bentleys in this one, so no one's going to be eking that stint out extremely far, because that's normally the one that tends to run the furthest. But yeah, certainly going to be interesting to see how these play out. Are we going to see one stops from people? Are we going to see people having to do 2 pit stops? Are they going to do driver changes every single time? It's one of those things that really kind of throws the cat amongst pigeons. And what I quite enjoy about these kind of series is the fact that when that does happen, it's always very difficult to tell who's actually going to come out on top until everyone's done their pit stops, doesn't it?
This is why we kept it so open. We deliberately didn't set stint timers or pit limits or amount of pit stops. We wanted this open, organic strategy for the drivers to really play with and just see what happens, see what chaos we can cause.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Good evening to Mr. Rich Pixley and Craig 855S in the YouTube chat this evening. So, Rich is welcoming sick note to the stream. Of course, Mark, I know you. For those of you who aren't aware, you're currently suffering with a bit of COVID at the moment. You can see the lap times on the screen. So it's a 42.0 from the number 45 car of McGee and Brown, which is 0.8 of a second quicker than anyone else at the moment. So Andy Wellborn and Paul Purcell in the Aston Martin, a little bit adrift at the moment. That Audi's really found some pace early doors, despite the fact they've not actually got the fastest first sector of the qualifying session so far.
And these are some fantastically close times going up and down the grid. I mean, we've got 1 second separating the top 4, but then it's 1 second separating 4th to 12th. That's incredible. So close.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what we were hoping to see, and we seem to be seeing it up until this point, which is what we like to see. We don't want to see lots of gaps in the field, and I have no doubt that if the times stay as close as they are, and like I say, even with 8 minutes or just under 10 minutes left to qualify, I'm sure things will change. So rest assured, the times will change, things will get closer, and things will get spicier throughout the rest of this evening as well. You see Ross Parker coming into the two Ravazzas in the Slipper Group Automotive car, the number 89 Aston Martin, one of the few running an in-game livery. You can see a little bit more subdued than the other ones, but good to see them being eye-catching as ever. Just going to see him coming across the line, currently sitting at P15. Will they improve? That is the question. Crosses the line. Looks like he doesn't improve in position there. Stays P15 at the moment. But again, still a bit of time for them to get some time. You see Andy Wellborn coming out of the pit lane, Alex Osborne in the Karma Racing Team number 40 car coming into Tamburello on what looks to be a flying lap. I'm sure Mr. Wellborn will get out the way relatively quickly. It's been always a fair race when I've had the chance to race him. Yeah, it just peels off to the inside and allows Alex to carry on with his flying lap. He goes steaming into the Villeneuve chicane, one of those corners on the track, or two corners that you've really got to take with quite a bit of aggression, coming into Tosa, one of the slowest parts of the track, bar in the Variante Alta chicane at the top of the hill, as he steams a little bit sideways from I think that's one of the SWMD cars, one of the BMWs in the background there, just losing it coming out of Tosa. That is one of those things about that BMW. It's so planted in the main, but on the power mark, it can be quite a handful, can't it?
Yeah, it's not a car I've really taken out, and as we see Alex just going massively wide there. Track cut for sure. It's not a car I've massively had a play with. I don't like it in the sense of driving. I like a really aggressive car. That's me through and through. For me, it's got to scare me every lap. I think that's why I've chosen weird cars in the past to race with. I mean, I used the Honda in our last season, and before that I was using the Porsche. I like cars to scare me. In fact, with the Bois League on Saturday evenings, I'm currently running the Nissan GTR just because.
Yeah, that's a particularly lesser spotted car, I think you'd say. I mean, the BMW, obviously, as we know, for anyone who's driven ACC recently on PC, they'll know that since the 1.8 patch, it's been a car of choice, I think it's fair to say, and probably a bit of an understatement as well.
Yeah, there's been a fair few of them on the grid, isn't there? What was it, 7 tonight? When it was first released, you went onto the public server. Wow, how many BMWs? Ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just one of them, isn't it? Like I say, I think it as a beginner's car, there's not many out there at the moment based on the current kind of physics of the game that aren't as easy to drive as the BMW is. If you can just have a little bit of caution, or if you just turn up the traction control lows, to be fair, then you're going to be absolutely fine in that car, and it really allows people to kind of get used to the game, get used to the sim, push the limits a bit more. With, like you say, just that little bit less of a kind of a snap in the car. Complete opposite to something like the Audi, for example. You see Jake Jenkins, in the Beluga Boys number 5 car. Not a car that is for the faint-hearted, like you said, Mark. Similar in vein, a little bit to the Honda, but slightly more predictable than the Honda is.
It's one of those cars that doesn't like the curves too much, so they're going to suffer coming into where they are now. Oh no, he's taking a bit of a bounce in the exit there. Dampers really having to earn their money underneath that chassis there. Really powering through the. Honestly, I don't know the name of these corners on circuits, as anyone will tell you. That's why I'm glad David is here. What is the name of the chicane? I forget.
It's Variante Alta.
Bless you.
Yeah. No, it's like you say. Yeah, some cars take them better than others. Some cars will suit certain tracks better than others as well. Interesting to see Jake just backing off there. I thought he was going to actually return to the garage, but it looks like he's carried on for the time being. Colin in the 750, a little bit out of shape on the curb. Just a little bit off, and then you see going through the two, in between the two Ravazzas, Ravazza 1 and Ravazza 2, goes on to the gravel, hopefully not on a flying lap at the moment. I can't imagine he'll improve his time as he crosses the line in that infamous Dunn Motorsport combination with the Positive Perception team livery in there, and needs to pull his finger out a little bit, does Colin. I know he's got the pace. We were chatting with him on Thursday, weren't we? And he had an interesting race in the Positive Perception GT League where he decided to carry on wet tyres on a dry track and ended up, what was it, about nearly 40 psi on his wet tyres, and they were very, very close to bursting.
He was smoking hot, literally. It was close to poppage, should we say. I'd like to point out, I've helped with this setup. This is why Colin is going so well tonight. I developed the setup for this car because I am actually in this car. Later in the series, when I'm not doing the stream, I am hoping to plant my right foot down and give this Ferrari a bit of a spin. Not sure which round it'll be, but we shall see.
Yeah, hopefully not a literal spin. Hopefully it'll just be
we hope not.
a very good and uneventful drive would be nice, wouldn't it? I actually drove the Ferrari at a 6-hour Monza event in another community at the start of this year, and it's, for me, the new Evo Ferrari. I know it's been out for a while. I know it's been released on the sim for a while now, but not a car that I'm hugely fond of. I've got to be honest. The one before was great. Loved the car before. Just this one, it just feels a little bit looser. And like I say, obviously that plays to your strengths, as you mentioned, but I definitely prefer something a little bit more, what's the word?
Conservative.
A little bit more predictable. So I'm not having to worry that I'm going to end up in the wall at every corner. The Aston Martin, for example, big favourite of mine. Nice and easy to drive. Means I can exact all the speed I want to, if that I have anyway. And it gives us a chance to push to the limits a little bit more without knowing that the car's going to snap at any point and I end up in a wall, especially here at Imola, one of the old school tracks with the walls, as you can see, are a little bit closer than normal. And what I like about this one, Mark, is the fact that the outskirts of the track, there's no runoff area. It's simply right. If you put any foot wrong, you're probably in the gravel or you're in the wall. There's not really a huge margin for error, is there?
There's not, but luckily it's not like Bathurst, where if you put one tyre wrong, you are smacking into that wall, complete damage. At least here you've got that little bit of runoff. I'm glad it's dry. If this had been wet, imagine coming off here. You'd be sliding over that grass straight into a wall, game over. But with the scorching temperatures in Italy at the moment, apparently it's 38 degrees on track. So there should be no issues if they do run wide, if they're on the grass, they will be able to stop, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. I think the only thing they've got to be aware of is just not hitting those curbs too much. As you can see, just to say that, Colin decides to, unsurprisingly loses the back end there. He appropriately named yeeted over the two curbs at very anti-arch. I thought he was going to be a bit more conservative on the second one after he completely launched the first. But didn't decide to. You see Poe in the Tug Motorsport monochrome car, the number 8 Mercedes AMG, currently sitting at the bottom of the leaderboard at the time sheets, unfortunately, and not enough time to put in a flying lap, unfortunately. I've actually seen him pop a message into the chat suggesting that he's not really too bothered. He's not going to try and go any quicker because he knows he's going to start at the back of the grid. But you never know. There's always a chance that there could be incidents on the first couple of laps, and you never know, it might end up a little bit further up than you initially expected. Kiki Mack coming over the line, pops in a 42.8 and currently sits P4 in the Celtic Bromance number 7 car. That is a GoldenEye inspired livery I can see there, which I very much enjoy. A game I spent far too much time on in my youth.
Now, does he have the machine gun attachments under the headlights there? That's what we've got to wonder.
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. We'll find out if he doesn't start on P1, because he might have to use them starting from P4. But as the finish at the checkered flag flies, as you can see, Ant Brown sits top of the time charts. We'll see that. I'll have a look at the actual times in just a second so we can get an idea as to the differences between them. But yeah, Ant Brown in the 45 car, there you go. You can see sitting at the top of the timing charts. Osborne and Brewer sitting 5/10 back in P2 in the first of the many BMWs. Although, as I say that, Andy Wellborn and Purcell go into second in the 23 Aston Martin car. Mack and McKinley sitting in P4, Josh Copeland in P5, Joe Challenger and Mark Davies in the second of the 7 BMWs, and it's then BMWs all the way down to P9. Where we've got Stanton, Rock, Fulton and Benton. God, that's going to be a mouthful to say in a little while. And Mark Neutings and James Jackson in P9, with Zenko, Lewis and Collison rounding out the top 10. Jenkins and Stills sitting in P11, with Hujak and Baldwin in P12, Nartnik and Kurzmank in P13, Parker and Walker in P14, Patel and Woolbridge. Dunn, I say Raddenbury, he's obviously with me, so he's not going to be in the car this evening, and Buchanan in P16, and then it's Powell and Straw rounding out the back of the grid. Of course, there's still a chance for some times to go in, but as we can see, it looks like they've stayed as they were, and that will be the order for the first race of this Positive Slip Boys Endurance Championship here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. We've got a few minutes until we go into the formation lap. As I said, 2 hours and 24 minutes racing time this evening, and that'll be the same for the next 5 rounds as well, which will be every 3 weeks between now and the start of May. So yeah, looking forward to it. But as we get ready to go, Mark, as we can see, we've got quite the pleasure of seeing quite a few very intriguing looking liveries, haven't we? Just spying that, I can't see what that Aston Martin, is that Mad Tom on the front of that Aston Martin in the front there?
It does indeed. That says Mad Tom. I quite like the fact it's lined up behind a Positive Perception car. Quite happy about that. But yeah, there's some fantastic liveries, and I can't lay claim to all of these. I have only done 3 of these actually on this grid tonight, so it's fantastic to see other people making the effort of making this stream look spectacular.
Absolutely, yeah. It's always nice, especially, I mean, we know that ACC isn't the simplest in terms of putting your custom liveries in, although I know they've done some little work to kind of make things a bit easier where they can, but it's one of those where it's always nice when championships allow for those custom liveries. Really makes the races a bit more entertaining to watch. I think, of course, obviously the action does most of that, but it's still nice to see the interesting looking liveries. I can see on the Lexus as well. I'm sure we'll show you when we get back onto the action when the race starts in just a couple of minutes time. But they've got that Brewdog livery. You can just see them sat in a P5 on, I think it's P5 on the grid, that red and white Lexus on the right hand side. It is a car that I really, really like the look of. Beer and alcohol themed liveries, anything like that, I am all over.
And I can't lay claim to having a beer while doing the stream tonight. I've run out.
I do have some, but I will keep myself professional until proven otherwise. But we'll see how long that takes.
For all of you in the chat saying my voice is lower, that's probably because I'm still ill. Everything's maxed out my end, so I do apologise if I sound quiet. I am still fighting this horrid disease. Speaking of disease, there is an event that people may want to get involved in. The Slip and Grip with Positive Perception now, after I stupidly put my hat in. I've got a couple of seconds to talk about this. May the 1st, May Day in the UK, we are doing a charity event for, I can't remember the name of the charity on the top of my head. It's for a leukemia charity essentially, so really good charity to get involved with. It's a 12-hour race. I don't think the track's quite been decided yet, but people sign up, donate, whichever.
Yeah, Hot Fuzz themed event, if I remember correctly.
That's the one.
I can confirm the charity in question is Young Lives versus Cancer.
Thank you.
Which will be great to see. Like I say, I think like you say, the track is due to be decided at some point soon. So yeah, if you want to get involved, then jump into the description, or if you haven't got the link, already, then head into there, grab the link for the Discord server, get involved. And get yourself signed up, because it will be fantastic to see as many people as possible for a good cause. Unfortunately, I know I'm busy that weekend, so I won't be attending. But that just means you'll be one position further up than normal, because you know what I mean. But anyway, let's get stuck into things. Formation lap underway. We'll get the session set back over there. You can see them coming up on there. We'll see if we can get the interval timings on the left-hand side as well. We'll get the broadcast app updated, see if we can get them to show on there as well. If not, we can see exactly where everyone is, and as we've done before in the qualifying session, we'll show you the intervals as we go through. So yeah, just going round on the formation lap. You can see there that is the car of Joe Challoner. Looks a little bit like, dare I say, looks a little bit like a traffic officer, that car, if you know what I mean. The ones who sit in awkward places on UK motorways and decide to stick cameras out and watch people try and break the speed limit. I don't know if that was the intention, but it looks a little bit like that. In fact, looking at the fact that they're the lifeboat legends, I wonder if that's what they're trying to go for instead, maybe.
I think it possibly was. I like it.
Yeah, very nice.
It's different.
Very nice indeed. Yeah, always nice. I say, always nice to see a custom livery on any car, no matter what it is. And the more, what should I say, the lesser spotted, the better, in my opinion. It's always nice to see something. There you go. You can see from Matthew Davies in the chat. Thank you, Matthew, for confirming that the 99 car is inspired from the lifeboat charity Joe and I volunteer for. That is fantastic to see. Really, really like that. Nice touch from you two there. Hopefully you won't need it if there's any threat of rain, so hopefully you won't need that BMW to turn into any form of boat throughout this evening. But yeah, nice to see. Always like to see there's a good amount of representation for charities and the likes of that as well. I think anything like that always kind of vibes off well with me. I think always looks very nice indeed. But anyway, Alex McGee is coming through Acqua Minerale and up the hill towards Variante Alta. He's got Andy Wellborn, he will have Andy Wellborn alongside him in the Aston Martin, that mad Tom livery car. As we go through towards the final part of this formation lap, they will line up in Noah's Ark formation in just a few moments' time, and that'll be when Assetto Corsa Competizione elects to tell them that they need to go about 150 mile an hour to get into their right position before they line up side by side, which I've never fully understood. It's all a little bit weird, but they'll get lined up in just a moment, and Alex McGee will be the one who leads the pack away. Any last words, Mark, before we get this curtain raiser underway?
I just hope T1 is nice and clean.
Says one of the organisers. It's exactly what we want to see as well. We want to see the broadcast more nice and clean but close and fair racing, which is, to be fair, what we normally get when these guys come together. So as you see, lining up 2x2, Alex McGee is going to lead us away in the 45 Positive Perception Racing Audi. They're going to go down one of the longer start-finish straights on any of the ACC calendars. You can see them just jostling for position. The speed limit will be in effect now, 43 miles an hour, 70 kilometers an hour, waiting for the lights to go green at the Autodromo Adino de Ferrari here at Imola. We're looking forward to this one. 2 hours and 24 minutes of non-stop GT3 action, and it looks like we will be underway in any moment now. You can see the lights are still red. As soon as they go green, those feet will be forced through the floor and the racing will get underway. Just waiting for them to come through now. As we go, there we go, it's green here at Imola, and it looks like Alex McGee has not got off to the best start in the world, and it looks as though Andy Wellborn is going to get the outside run into Tamburello for the first time. Alex Osborne is trying to get a little bit into the action as well in that number 40 BMW, but Alex McGee is going to cover the inside, but that is a big sweeping move from the 23 Aston Martin of Andy Wellborn, and he takes the lead early doors into this one as Osborne sits in behind him. Copeland, Rock, Mac, Challoner, Fulton, Neutelings and Zenko are your top 10. Oh, big contact in the background. I can see that's Mark Neutelings is definitely one of those back there. That's Colin Dunn, Sam Wooldridge, and I think that is one of the Aston Martins. I think it's the 43 car in the background there as well. I think that's Zenko in the back there. So a couple of incidents. That BMW Mark is looking very second-hand there in terms of that. As you can see, he's struggling to even turn it into Tamburello.
That's taken some serious hit. I wonder if I can get a replay on that. I will do my review for everyone.
We'll see if we can get a replay of that moment. See exactly what has happened there. That was a big incident, as you can see here. Oh, it just looks like, yeah, I mean, it looks to me, I don't know if we can see this to get a second view of that, but it looked to me like Zenko actually lost it on his own, and that in turn caused some incidents a bit further down. Here you can see here, this is Zenko coming around through Tamburello. Is it a little bit of contact? Oh, it is contact between Wooldridge and Zenko. There is, you can see there on the right hand side, that was Martin Neutis getting caught up in there, and then one of the other cars a little bit further back just lost it on their own as well. That is unfortunate. It's not the way you want to start the race, but hopefully they can get back into there, get any damage fixed that they need to, and hopefully be back underway. It looked to me like that BMW of Neutelings was the worst damage. Although you can see there the positive perception Ferrari. Your positive perception Ferrari, Mark, is looking a little bit worse. Where I'm sure Colin won't have wanted the start to look exactly like that. when he was getting through the formation lap a moment ago.
He'll be absolutely fuming. But does this open up the strategy to the guys? They're going to go in and pit. It's going to be a long pit, yes, but you can have your splash and dash now. You can swap your driver. You can really take the race and see what progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, yeah, it does open it up, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about this, isn't it? Like you say, they don't have to. I mean, they can pretty much do whatever they want. They could, in theory. I'm sure what would probably be the case, if it was in my position anyway, is like you say, you'd fix the damage and nothing else. You wouldn't drive a change, you wouldn't refuel, you wouldn't change tyres because you're one lap into the race. There's no need to do that at the moment. But Andy Wellborn has had the start of dreams. You can see the purple number next to him on the left hand side. That proves that he's got the fastest lap of the race as we head into the first couple of laps, and you can see there Alex McGee under a bit of pressure from Osborne in the BMW just behind, but it's giving Andrew Wellborn the chance to really kind of disappear off into the distance. You see he's got a gap of a couple of seconds already in that number 23 Aston Martin, the AMW Racing with Muskoka Brewery car, which probably explains the slightly edgy looking livery. I'm sure that's probably some sort of craft beer mark. I've personally not heard of it myself, but based on what that looks like, that looks like a craft ale of some description, just based on the way that car looks.
From what I can read there, it's a West Coast IPA, for those of you who want to head down to your local Tesco's, but obviously after the coverage.
Yeah, absolutely. Watch the race first, go to your supermarket afterwards and grab a couple of beers if you need to, or pop it on your phone and take it with you and share it with everyone you see on the way there. You see, it looks like Alex Osborne, maybe he's had a little bit of a mistake on that one because he's dropped back from Alex McGee, but you can see the gap between the top three starting to form. But if we kind of hopefully get back, you've got Kiki Mack under a bit of pressure from Joe Challoner into Tamburello in the Celtic Romance car, covers to the inside. She's going to get a pretty substandard exit, you would say, and we'll see whether Challoner can make the move going into Villeneuve. He's just waiting a little bit longer, I think, by the looks of it. Yeah, just settles back in, and there's a big gap forming back to Chris Rock and Hujak, and there's a bit of a train forming behind, although John Walker in the Slipper Group Automotive got a bit of contact, bit of a hip check between the 89 and 76 car of Walker and Hujak, but Hujak's going to have the inside line going into Tozer. It's 2x2 hurrah as they go into the Lexus, the number 15 car of Copeland chose to go up the inside of one of the BMWs. It's Fulton going into Tozer there and manages to get the move done. It looks like both the cars on the inside have made their respective moves and have both moved up into 7th and 9th respectively. Copeland, however, seventh and 9th respectively. We'll see that reset itself in just a minute. They go into Aqua Minerale. Walker, car's looking a little bit worse for wear. I can see the front end of that Aston Martin just looking a little bit second-hand, so it might have collected a little bit of damage in the early knockings of that race, as we hit 5 minutes into this race. Still 2 hours and 19 minutes to go, so still plenty of time for these guys to get back in. But it looks like Colin Dunn and Mark Neuterlings have successfully done their first pit stop, and they are back out, hopefully, with all that damage fixed.
They are, with points all the way down the order, I believe. Why not? Get out there, get it done, keep racing. That's the ethos.
Absolutely, yeah. Points all the way down to the top 26. So if anyone comes in, you're still going to get the chance. You see a bit of flashing there from Copeland there, just to maybe just remind Walker that he's a little bit second-hand at the moment, which is a little bit second-hand, but underhand tactics from Copeland. He's going to try around the outside into Tamburello. This might work quite well. It's a triple apex corner. He's going to have the outside to the inside again, but he gets the apex, gets the move done on the second apex of the corner. It's a really nice move, and then an interesting move from Fulton to try and go over the inside, or the infield rather, of the final apex. Tamburello to try and get involved there, doesn't manage to do it, nothing coming there, and it's as you were for those two. Now you can see Alex Osborne now with the fastest lap of the race. He's now going to turn his focus to catching back up to Alex McGee in the number 45 Positive Perception Racing car. So we've got one Positive Perception car at the top, two down towards the bottom. So not been all your way so far, Mark, but at least one of them's kept towards the top end of the standings.
It's fine. When I get in the car, then we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. I have no doubt about that at all. As you can see here, all side by side going into Aqua Minerale, chaps. That's not going to work very well. John Walker, though, somehow manages to hold off Fulton in the BMW. I don't know how he's managed to do that, because when you're going around the outside into that corner, it's going to be very difficult to hold him off. Covers to the inside into Variante Alta. A little bit of a knock over the curb. Manages to get back through there with no real time lost but he's got that BMW all over the rear diffuser of the Aston Martin. It looks like it's only a matter of time before Walker loses 9th position and drops himself down to the bottom of the top 10. Covers the inside going into the first Ravazza. He won't have any issues in terms of positions being lost into the second one. I think what Fulton's focus is going to be, as you can see, is just going to be trying to get the best possible exit out of the corner and see if he can go. I believe the battle for the top 2 is starting to hot up as well. Hopefully we can see what's going on with those guys in just a moment as we cut through the field. That's Jake Jenkins at the bottom here. You can see there Alex McGee managing to well, you can see he's not fastest on track at the moment. He's not got that fastest lap, but he is definitely closed on Andrew Wellborn, and the fight that looked very easy for Wellborn off the first couple of corners is starting to hop back up again as we enter the first few minutes of this race. No strategy calls just yet needed, but certainly starting to spice up again at the top end of the field.
Everyone's driving solid so far. They're just trying to learn the car, build that pressure up in those tyres a little bit, and find out where the other drivers are weaker. It's still 2 hours and 15 minutes to go. It's a long old race, so you need to watch the other drivers and learn where they're going a little bit slower than you, where you can make up just that little tenth of a second and get into that slipstream, especially with this long straight here at Imola.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Audi not the slowest in the straight line either. The Aston Martin, one of the quicker ones as well, but a little bit slower in those lower rev ranges than some of the cars. So that will be what Alex will be thinking, I'm sure. See if he can get the best possible exit out of the second Ravazza. He's not going to be close enough this time, I don't think, even with the slipstream. He'll definitely be in that slipstream distance between himself and the Aston Martin ahead, but he's not going to be close enough to get that. But that is the fastest lap of the race so far. He is really on a charge, is the number 45 car, and I'm sure Ant Brown, who's sitting in the pit lane at the moment waiting to take over at some point later in this race, will be very pleased with how Alex has managed to, I don't want to say redeem himself because he didn't do anything wrong in the first couple of corners, but he'll be pleased how he's kind of bounced back and is starting to turn the wick up on the car in P1, and hopefully he'll be looking when they do the changeover in a little while, and I'm sure we'll be hoping that he's got the chance to really solidify that first position and take the maximum of 30 points in this first round here at Imola.
Like, just having a car behind you is off-putting enough. You know, you're going to see it in the mirrors. If it's got its headlights on, it's going to slightly distract you. You're not going to be taking your precise lines, so you're going to lose that little bit of time. I think it's going to be a case of when and not if, with Alex getting past that Alex Wellborn at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, like you say, it's difficult to have someone behind you. It's Alex looked like he went very deep into Variante Alta there. That was a little bit of a squeaky bum time moment for the Audi there. But yeah, just going back to what I was going to say, it's like you say, it's difficult to have someone behind you in the car, but it's equally almost in the complete polar opposite. It's so much nicer having someone to follow, especially when you know they're quick enough, because it just gives you that extra bit of time. It's not just the slipstream that you gain, but you can be so much more aggressive. I personally think in terms of hitting your apexes, hitting your marks, because if they can do the same thing, you can really kind of push yourself to the limit, knowing that you're going to get a little bit of lap time out of it as well. There's a 43.4 from Alex McGee on that last run, so it would have been around probably about a tenth or two quicker than the car ahead and Wellborn at the moment. As you can see, there is your timing chart. So it's you can see, yeah. Well, we know it's not a very big gap between first and second. 3.6 seconds back to Osborne and Brewer at the moment. Mack and McKinley a little bit further back there, a couple of seconds adrift. Oh, it's Alex McGee on the entry into Villeneuve, just in the background there, catches the curb. It looked like. Hopefully, we'll get a replay of that and see what happened. Oh, please be careful on the rejoin, Alex. That's not very safe. Just about manages to hold on to it. You can see here, he just gets on that. It's that sausage curb, I think. No, it's not. I don't think that's. Oh no, this is a bit further on. This is I'm getting myself confused. I'm getting my two chicanes mixed up. He goes. He comes in towards Villeneuve. Does he? I think he catches that sausage curb on the inside. Does he? Yes. Oh yes. Those three giant sausage curbs on the inside of those apexes. That is why they're there. They're to deter people from going a bit too aggressively over the apex of corners. And Alex has fallen foul of that. Luckily for him, though, Mark, no damage. No damage apart from potentially his ego at this early stage of the race.
His pride is definitely going to have been battered, especially as I've managed to find the replay button just to further embarrass him for all time.
I've just noticed Ant Brown, of course, Code Brown Simsport, of course, in the chat. He just noticed just before he said that, he popped into the YouTube chat and said, I'm presuming he's come back to me talking about the fact he'd have been pleased that Alex is doing a good job in the car so far. I wonder if that is curse of the teammate rather than the curse of the commentator, because pretty much as soon as he said he was over the moon with how Alex is getting on, that's kind of backfired a little bit, hasn't it? And thank you. It's really good. JP Race Engineering saying great coverage as well. So I think that's probably more down to you than myself, Mark, because you're the one bringing all the fantastic camera angles so far and bringing all these replays, which is great.
It could be better. I'm having to shift an arrow button to find the cars. Unfortunately, the bit of software I have clicking on an individual car isn't working, so I'm having to do this manually now. So I do apologise if there's any stuttering and everything like that.
That's all. That's not a problem at all. Look, put it this way: you're doing a far better job than I could ever think of doing. Take that for granted. It's very much why I stick to doing the talking rather than the camera angles, because I would be terrible at doing anything like that. But anyway, focus a little bit further down the grid. John Walker still just about sitting in P9, but he is forming a little bit of it's the John Walker train at the moment. That is Zenko, Fulton, and a couple of other cars. Pretty much all the way down to Jenkins. I think that is down at the back end. So P15s. That's a 6-car train being headed up by the 89 Aston Martin at the moment. He's under a bit of pressure, but it seems like he's holding his own. To be fair, he's been put under pressure by a few different people so far in this race, but he's somehow managing to keep the 9th position. He's just about by the skin of his teeth holding on to that 9th position at the moment. So yeah, it's Zenko, Fulton, Nartnik, Waldridge, and I believe Jenkins. Oh, he goes a little bit wide coming out of Ariane Alto, and that's going to allow Zenko through. That's one position gone, just as I was praising him for his composure in the race so far. Loses P9, drops into P10, but he's going to be under pressure. There's 2 BMWs all over him like a rash, but it looks like Nartnik is going to make the move into the first. That's the number 14 car. Really nice, 24 car, sorry. Really clean move from him. I think he made the benefit there, Mark, of Fulton potentially trying to look for a move on Walker in front. He's done the classic opportunistic move, and it's worked out really nicely for him.
It's what I was saying earlier. You just got to watch the other drivers. You've got to learn where they're going to do their little slow bits, and just take advantage wherever you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really nice move from from one of the many BMWs there as well.
All the BMWs.
Yeah, all the BMWs. Do you have any? How many BMWs do you want in this championship? And the answer was yes.
What this has done, it's brought Poe and Kev Straw's car into the mix as well, the Mercedes. And there was a mistake there by Walker. Was that a mistake by Walker?
Yeah, I think that was Walker, wasn't it? Just got a little bit out of shape coming through Villeneuve and just came back on, and the 2 BMWs tapped, and that is, like you say, Poe's up into, I believe that's going to be P11 for Poe now. And as he said, look, we were talking about it earlier, like you said, he wasn't particularly confident in qualifying. He knew he didn't have the pace to get off the back of the grid. It was a rather pessimistic view, I think, but as I said, you keep your nose clean and you can get those positions back. It's a long race. The way I look at it is what's the way of putting it? It's not. It goes a little bit sideways. Poe's just been booted off coming out of Acqua Minerale, I think there. He's managed to keep it going, so he's not ended up in the wall, fortunately. But that was not ideal at all. A little bit of a nudge there. I wonder if the stewards will take a view at that. Of course, all results in these races in the championship will be provisional. Protest forms are available for anyone who chooses to do so. And a little bit of a dodgy move there coming out of Acqua Minerale. But just going back to what I was going to say before, the worst people to see in a race are not necessarily the quickest ones. It's those that can be super consistent and keep your nose clean. And I was saying a minute ago, Poe was that person, but unfortunately, beyond his control, just got a little bit of a love tap. I think it was from Fulton in the BMW, and just spun him around coming out of the exit of Acqua Minerale. And unfortunately, that's dropped him back down to P13.
He's still in there. He's got a fantastic teammate in Kev Straw. Kev actually races a caterer in the UK, so he's got that racecraft knowledge.
Very nice indeed. Of course, I mean, when you look at the sims nowadays, it gives you that confidence, doesn't it? If you're good in a sim, you're going to be good in a real life race car as well. Bo,
that was a nose cut.
That is firm but fair.
Yeah,
I think we'll say.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong. He's going for the corner. He wouldn't have got the call from the engineer in the sim to tell him that the car was on his left-hand side. So I think he's got every right to do it. It's just lucky that Walker didn't decide to brake a little bit later and there was any contact. But yeah, firm but fair racing, which is exactly what we like to see. As I can see, McGee has just about managed to get himself up into 4th position. So he's managed to circumnavigate Challoner, and he's up into P4. As you can see, he's now chasing down Osborne in P3, so he's really starting to... Well, he made that mistake earlier on going into Villeneuve. He started to come out a little bit sideways. Oh, dearie me. That was impossible to avoid. Luckily, there was no contact between the two of them, but it looked like Osborne, as we said before, Mark, Osborne got the BMW a little bit out of shape coming onto the power out of the second Ravazza, and Alex just had to avoid him.
Yeah, and straight through. Sorry, I have just noticed the 750, so the Colin Dunn Ferrari stopped on track at the moment. There's a yellow flag.
Just going into Acqua Minerale, I think, looking at the track map.
Thank you.
And that's unfortunate. Hopefully we'll see them get going again soon. Hopefully they won't be stopped for too long. And yeah, because it'd be a real shame to see them. Looks like they are moving again. I can just see just gone into that kind of white and orange little dot on the street, which tells them they're going slowly, but it looks like they're back up to speed now, which is good to see. This is shaping up to be quite a spicy little battle for P3 at the moment. You can see all 4 cars, so third down to 6th, within the space of a couple of seconds really on the screen. So if you get the right camera shot like you can now, you can see all of them. I think that was Kiki Mack and the Aston Martin just ahead as well. So as we said, Mark, we saw how close the times were in qualifying. They seem to be similar in the race. I mean, Andrew Wellborn's kind of checked out a bit up front, but otherwise it's looking pretty close and pretty competitive across the field, especially at the top end as well.
This is fantastic. We never expected the racing to be this close, and I'm just, we've had 20 minutes of racing. The pack, most of the drivers, they're still on the lead lap. There's a few that are off it. Mark Neutlings, Colin Dunn, purely accident-wise, they can claw themselves back. They can bring themselves back. There's still 2 hours, 4 minutes and 40 seconds to go in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, good to see. Plenty of time, as you said. Plenty of time for them to get back into, well, I say back into the thick of things. They already are in the thick of things, but Mac has done a fantastic job so far. Started in P4, and has made a couple of positions up into 2nd place on the grid. So going to be getting 27 points for their ventures in that number 7 Celtic Bromance car if things stay as they are. I say it's car number 7. Let's be honest, and you can see it on the side as well. It's car 007. With that livery, you can't say it's anything other than that. As you saw there, the Dunn Motorsport car, just confirmation on the cameras that they are back and moving again, which is exactly what we want to see. We don't want to see anyone getting stuck behind, but it does mean they are quite a way back, unfortunately, from Neutlings and Woolbridge. I mean, Neutlings can be further back as well in the treble 6 car, but Woolbridge is the last one, I believe, on the current lap. There you can see Mark Neutlings, you can see he's a lap or 2 down because that damage they had on that first lap incident where a couple of cars got picked up in there. What he's going to be doing, and again, knowing Mark like I do, he's probably going to be getting a little bit hot-headed at the moment, just trying to get past these guys. Of course, there's no need for them to move out of the way because they are a lap or 2 ahead of him at the moment.
Yeah, they're under no obligation to move out of the way. There'll be no blue flags for them. Knowing Mark, yeah, like you say, there'll be some Dutch swear words, I imagine. I do feel sorry for James's ears. But Mark's a solid racer. He's one of those guys that will just, he'll whinge, he'll moan, but then he'll just carry on. He'll just keep on plugging. It's what he does. It's what he does best.
Absolutely. Oh, just tried to look for the move there. He's got Jenkins behind him as well, so that is the guy's 2 positions ahead of him on track. So just shows you how much time he's lost. But like you say, hopefully, I mean, they've got their mandatory pit stop out of the way now. So for those of you who aren't aware, just give you a bit of background in terms of the format of the series. So 6 races, 2.4-hour races for each one. They run tri-weekly, and if you do want to get involved, then we can pop a Discord link into the chat for any one of the 3 servers. I'll leave you to do the other 2, Mark, because I know you're probably part of them and I can get the positive perception one out if I need to. But
so we can.
Yeah, if people want to get involved, then look, you're more than welcome. I've put the sim racing GP one in there as well, so look, everyone's welcome. Be great to get a few more teams on the grid as well, as Jake Jenkins just goes up the inside there into Tamburello. Of course, the blue flag flying for Martin Eutelings, but one mandatory pit stop for all of these drivers, so there's no obligation for them to run any more than one pit stop if they don't have to. Now, we said before, strategy is going to be key. It's one of those nice little things about this championship, I think, isn't it, Mark? Where, like you said, because you've given just that one mandatory pit stop, it gives them more of an open opportunity to be a bit more flexible, bit of a gamble really in terms of strategy. Because once you've made that pit stop, you can really do whatever you want. You don't have to then make you don't make a driver change. You don't have to do anything like that. You could simply driver change early doors, straight back out later on in the race. So you do your first stint, driver change, come back out, splash and dash, no change of tyres, 2 second pit stop, and away you go again. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see how people kind of play that out throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm really surprised not to see any Bentleys in the field. You know, they're notorious for being the long distance, race car that you want. They'll take the massive amounts of fuel that you need. You could do this race with 2 tanks of fuel with a Bentley, yet you might have to do a little bit of fuel save. But it's that one crucial pit stop you wouldn't then have to take. It's fascinating that no one's picked it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a car I've driven a huge amount. I know that some people don't like it because it's one of the very few right-hand drive cars. In fact, I think it might be the only right-hand drive car on the ACC car selection, GT3s at least, as far as I know.
GT3 wise, yes, and Ginetta is the GT4 one that is right-hand drive as well.
Yeah, I've driven the Ginetta before. The fact that's right-hand drive doesn't really bother me, but the Bentley really does. Even though I'm based in the UK, I drive a right-hand drive car every single day. For some reason, I can't get my head around driving a car around a racetrack in right-hand drive. It just doesn't. It feels so alien. I don't know if it's the same for you, but no, I struggle massively.
I am identical. I can't do it. I've just spotted car number 8 is in the pits. That is Poe. He's in the pits already. See
if that's going to be a driver change. Let's see if Kev Straw gets into the car for that one, or whether that's just going to be an early stop. Of course, we saw him get a little bit of a nudge coming out of Aqua Minerale a little while ago. He's down to P15 now. Jake Jenkins on your screen in the number 5 car. He's got himself up into P12, so doing a good job of that at the moment. And there you can see, so 14 laps, or onto the 14th lap for Wellborn. So you see he is really starting to eke out that gap at the front of the field. And then the other guys, so Mack and McKinley sitting in P2, Osborne and Brewer in P3, McGee and Brown P4, Challoner and Davies, you see 14 seconds the gap from P1 to P2, and then it's a little bit closer as you carry on down there. Rock and Stange, who are sitting in P7, Hujak and Baldwin P8, Zenko, Lewis and Collison P9, the Fulton duo and Benton in P10.
It's father and son, I think, with the Fultons. I believe it's father and son. Harrison's the youngest, and Craig's the dad, and then
there you go.
Andy Benton's just one of the snipping grip guys who he was lonely, I think.
Well, it's always an inclusive community, which is what you like to see. But just coming back to what you see there, you can see Poe, Mark and Colin Dunn. They are all a lap down at the moment. You can see Martin has actually gone past Poe in that one. So whilst they've done their pit stops, so that's what you can see. You see the little number 1 on the screen in the just to the right hand side of the car numbers. That's to suggest they have their one mandatory pit stop remaining. So now that Poe has done his stop, he is meant, because it's gone green, he's done that mandatory pit stop. But you can see the P is still there, so he's still in the pit lane at the moment. The only thing I can assume is the reason for this longer pit stop, Mark, is because there might have been a little bit of damage. We didn't obviously see it on the screen, but my assumption would be is that maybe Poe's had a little bit of an excursion off track, and that's why we see out of the pit lane now, back up and running, going into Tamburello, and back out on track, 3-minute 52-second lap. So my gut feeling is a little bit of damage, and fix that, back out of the way you go. But it stayed in the car, so not handed over to Kev just yet. Carried on as you are for now.
Certainly an interesting strategy call if they've done their mandatory. There must have been some damage on those tyres, I imagine. As we all know, with the latest update with ACC, you do get a lot harsher tyre problems. If you hot spot them, flat spot them, you really feel it now. So maybe it was just a precautionary change.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe better to be safe than sorry. Go very wide.
Absolutely. Through Piratella.
Yeah, through Piratella. probably would have got a track warning for that. Of course, if those of you who've driven an ACC before, 3 track limits, and then you get a drive-through penalty. Now, knowing Imola the way I do, I've explored quite a lot of the outside of the track on this sim before, so I know exactly where you can get those track cut warnings, and that was definitely one of them. And yeah, I'm sure we'll see at least one drive-through this evening from at least one car in the field, but one car who doesn't seem to be having any issues so far on the early knock-ins this race, just under half an hour into this one, still just under 2 hours to go. Andy Wellborn in the AMW racing car with Makoka Brewery, the number 23 Aston Martin on your screen, going into Wressell on lap, I believe that's lap 16 they're on now, going into the final couple of corners, sitting in P1, got a 15-second gap to Kiki Mack in the other Aston Martin, or the second of 4 Aston Martins on the track. Alex Osborne, Josh Copeland, P3 and P4, and Alex McGee, still the man with our fastest lap so far, sitting in P5. Of course, was putting this man under pressure earlier on in the race until that little mistake, getting a little bit too hot and heavy on the curbs going through Villeneuve, spun the car around. As a result, hasn't managed to make any moves just yet, but as you can see, there's potentially going to be a change for P3 on track as Copeland. I mean, look at the difference in speed there. He's got the move done before they've even gone into the braking zone, into Tamburello. Osborne just looked like he was going to shake to the inside, thinks better of it, and there is a change for the final podium spot, and Josh Copeland, running on his own this evening, is going to be a very tired boy at the end of this race, I have no doubt whatsoever, but running well so far from P6 on track and qualifying already, Mark, up into P3.
And they're closing on Kiki Mack up ahead. That gap has definitely got smaller over the last couple of laps.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things, isn't it? The good thing about that for those two is they didn't battle a huge amount going into that braking zone into Tamburello, so it's not really going to have impacted them too much in the grand scheme of things. And as a result, as you said, Mark, it's going to give them that chance to catch up to Kiki Mack ahead. And you can see now, look, there's what I'd say that's a gap of around about 2 seconds is my gut feel.
I'm going to go to less. I reckon that's probably 1.5. It's not much.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, yeah, they're a lot closer than they were. They seem to be closing in a hand over fist on the Aston Martin. And if you've got those machine gun inserts on the front of the Aston Martin, boys and girls, then I would suggest you take them out relatively soon if you do lose a position, because you're going to want that position back very, very quickly indeed. But yeah, going to be under pressure very shortly. It just looks like Copeland and Osborne have really got some pace that Mack just doesn't seem to have at the moment. Look at the gap already. I mean,
that's one lap.
They were a little bit further behind before, and they have really closed that up really quickly.
That is fantastic. In one lap, that's come down. Josh is going to be right into the slipstream of that Aston Martin now. Kiki will be checking his mirrors, panicking. Well, probably not panicking, knowing Kiki, but he'll probably be saying a few choice words on his own Twitch stream about the rapid pace of that Lexus.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a car that, to be fair, not a car I've driven, not a car that I know some people really like it. I know it's one of those cars, I think, that from what I've gathered is people will drive it, they'll get used to it, and they will never part with it, it seems. But not one I've driven. Supposedly very good in the wet, I'm told.
I've heard the same. Yeah, I've heard.
You can confirm, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I've driven it a couple of times. It's not my go-to car, but it is one that I've ranked really highly. Very nice car to drive. Almost like a touring car in the way it feels, basically. Nice and safe.
I think it looks like a tour. In fact, it looks like, and it probably is, to be fair, the way it's been built, the lines on the car, the way the spoiler sticks out from the, it's got those arches in the middle where the spoiler sticks onto. It looks like an old school, a relatively recent DTM car, because it just looks like it's got a massive body kit chucks on the end of it. Because the amount of you see the side, the splits down the side, they're just massive, aren't they? They're so obvious.
Yeah, but then all the DTM cars, they might as well be GT3s with the horsepower those guys are kicking out now.
Oh yeah, that's very true. And again, I think they've kind of gone full circle, haven't they? Now this looks like a DTM car, but like you say, all the DTMs look like GT3s again. Josh Copeland going to the inside into the second revat, so that's an interesting move. Not the move you would typically see people going for. He's managed to make it work. Hip check for good measure as well. And he's up into P2, but Kiki Mack's going to get all the slipstream he needs to try and pull that move back. It'd be interesting to see whether Josh goes to the inside or the outside as they go into Tamburello. And be interesting to see whether Kiki's even close enough to do anything. It doesn't look like he will be. Will he stick the nose in just to be there for the sake of it? He doesn't. into Tamburello, and not the move I would expected to see anyone do, but Copeland up into P2, and really starting to make some moves on the field.
Yeah, you never expect to see a move into the final corner at Imola. You'd sit behind them. That would certainly be my strategy. Sit behind them, use the toe, and take them at the first chicanes.
Absolutely, really strange to do, but I mean, it worked. So look, maybe this is something that we're going to start to see from the rest of the people of the ACC community nowadays. Now, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's worked, and he's really not messing around. He's starting to form a gap straight away to Kiki Mack, and that's going to put him under pressure from and Alex Osborne as well. You can see Blasnartnik, in the BMW 24 car, just dropping into the gravel, coming through. I think that's Tamburello there. Ooh, it's just very close between himself and Martin Neutling, so it's not going to be a change of position, but he has lost a position to Jake Jenkins, who goes up into P11 and promotes himself up just off the back of the top 10 in that number 5 Audi. Alex McGee still got the fastest lap of the race. Still, I mean, well, we've seen the battle for the top 3 at the second, third, fourth positions at the moment. We were watching that for a moment ago. Alex just, I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know whether Ant is still watching. He's having a chat with him, can give us an idea of what's going on there, but just doesn't seem to have the pace he had earlier on. I don't know if he's burnt the tyres up or anything, but seems a little bit further back than he was before. You can see there he is, just coming out of the second Ravazza. He's about 10 seconds back from Osborne, you would say?
Yeah, roughly I'd say it's about 10 seconds. You can just see him go around the top of the shot then. So yeah, it's probably about 10 seconds. Potentially slightly less.
Quite a big gap anyway. 44.4 on the last lap. A fair whack slower, than the time was on the lap before that. Than the fastest lap rather. Because he's still got that at the moment. So no one's been able to top that fastest lap just yet. But yeah, the consistency, not necessarily all Alex's at the moment, just losing a little bit of time to the guys ahead, and falling a little bit distant of those guys. And you can see he's just coming out of toes. You see on the track map, and you can see the others are just going into Piratella, so they're at the top of the hill. So yeah, probably 8 to 10 seconds, I would say, is the gap between them. So he really needs to pull his finger out a little bit and start to increase the pace if he wants to get back in. Look, like I say, long way to go. Still just under an hour and 50 minutes to go, but these kind of gaps can be quite it's a strong way of putting it, but they can be quite soul destroying, especially when you've not got the chance to really close them down. It can be something that can hit you mentally, can't it, when you can just see you're pushing potentially as hard as you can be, but the gap ahead just isn't decreasing.
You need that carrot on a stick effect. You need that car ahead of you that you can visually see, so that you can see the gap coming down. I do it a lot with radio controlled car racing. I pick a point on the circuit and I'll see where my nearest guy is. And just every lap I'll see, right, was I quicker than him through that? Was I ahead of him? You need that carrot.
Yeah, absolutely. I for one, I do it so I get the relative open and I try as best I can to get the lap time as they cross the line to see what times they're doing compared to me. And it can work both ways, can't it? It can be really good if you're gaining time, but if you're losing time, it can be quite the opposite. Joe Challoner now in the number 99 Lifeboat Legends car, just under a bit of pressure from Zenko in the 43 Aston. Can he go around the outside into Tamburello? He's got the move done as he side by side through the first stage between the second, and they're going to keep it side by side. This is very close. They are still side by side coming through Tamburello. Is he going to try and get the move into Villeneuve? No, he's not. He's going to have to wait a little bit longer. Really, really staunch defence from Joe Challoner there. It looks like he might not have the pace to hold on to his position for much longer, but he's not making it easy for Zenko to get that P6 on track, and that's going to bring Chris Rock, who you can see just at the back end of the picture. He's the BMW behind these two. It's going to bring him into the mix as well. And yeah, confirmation from Ant in the chat. Alex has had some contact with Joe Challoner, so he's carrying a little bit of damage, which probably explains why he's potentially a little bit off pace, which is a shame. Hopefully he can get that fixed at the pit stop and they can get back on track and start to claw back a little bit of the time lost so far.
Let's hope they can. Alex and Ant, they're a heck of a team to race with. I did the 24-hour Spa with the pair of them, and if you put Ant in a car and you tell him, right, you've got this much fuel, we need to do this lap time, he will do it. You know, he's one of those fantastic drivers. Alex is the same, just meticulous, consistent driver. So to see him making mistakes and having accidents is a bit, oh no, but they'll pull it back.
Out of character, yeah.
Really out of character. They'll pull it back. I'm sure they will. It's counting on the boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Still a lot of time to go. Yeah, you're counting on them as team manager. Need them to pull out a better performance than they have done so far. I'm sure they will. I've no doubt whatsoever. Like you say, I've seen them race with them a couple of times before and know the pace they've got. But anyway, back to this one. Joe Challoner under pressure again from Zenko in the Aston Martin. Round the outside, it's going to be a rinse repeat of the last one. But on this occasion, gets a fantastic run to Zenko out of the second apex of Tamburello, and that is a lovely move. The number 99 Lifeboat Legends card drops down into P7, and that is Zenko up into P6. Had a fantastic start to this race, was down towards the back end of the grid in qualifying, but up into a very strong top 10 finish so far, and really getting that Aston Martin pointing in the right direction and getting the speed out of it as well. You can see Hansik in the in P9 at the Hujak, in P9 at the moment, just under a bit of pressure from Harry Fulton in the number 17 BMW. One of the many ones, as we can see there. The Lamborghini of Wooldridge is into the pit lane, so potentially the first of the real kind of planned pit stops. It seems a little bit early, Mark, but given the time frame, I wouldn't be too surprised if they're just trying to get one of those potential splash and dash pit stops you mentioned out of the way a little bit earlier than normal.
I do wonder. Yeah, that seems very early. You know, maybe they started the race on low fuel just to try and get some positions. It's not working for them, so they're going to switch up the strategy. Who knows? Yeah,
absolutely. Of course, Wooldridge is one of those who got caught up in that turn 3 lap 1 incident early on in this race. So potentially kind of a bit of damage. Maybe it's just got to the point where it's not at the stage where it's really kind of benefiting them to carry on. Oh, that's Zenko pointing backwards, coming out of the second Ravazza, and that is going to be a few positions lost for the BMW there, of the Aston Martin, sorry. That's going to give Hujak a bit of pressure to try and hold off Harry Fulton. It looked like Fulton got a better run out of the final corner. And, oh no, sorry, wrong way round, my apologies. It's actually Fulton's managed to make the move because Hujak got a little bit out of shape, presumably trying to avoid going into the side of the stricken Hujak. Sorry, getting all my names mixed up now. The stricken Zenko on the exit of Ravazza 1. And so unfortunately, he's dropped down into P9. And Harry Fulton has got himself up into P8. But nice little run out of Villeneuve. Can he get his nose up the inside into Tosa? He can. Going to be going side by side out of this one. I would imagine Fulton's going to get the better exit because he's on the outside, so he can get on the power a little bit earlier. But as we run up the hill towards Piratella, it looks like, yeah, you can see there. Sorry, my screen disappeared for a second there, so I didn't actually see what happened. But it looks like Fulton has managed to hold on to the position and into Piratella, yeah, top of the hill. He's managed to hold on to that Urus Hujak in the second of the two Celtic Bromance team cars, number 76, this one, the BMW, in what I can only assume is a slight kind of remnant of the old Mazda 787B car, that orange, white and green colour car. But he's actually, as I'm talking about the livery, he's going up the inside into Variante Alta. The BMW could take the curves, but not taking that one very well indeed. He's getting a bit too much of it. Back end stepped out. He's managed to avoid the sausage curbs on the exit. But as he managed to get the move done, it looked like Fulton went wide out of Aqua Minerale. He got himself under a bit of pressure, crossed up on the exit. Hujak's tried to make the move, and then as he has done, it's just one of those, isn't it? It's such a difficult chicane to go through. There's really one line in the main, especially in these GT3 cars. You can be a little bit more flexible in a GT4 because it can take the curbs a little bit better, but not quite worked out well for Hujak there. And whilst he made the move, he's now got to try and do it all over again.
Yeah, he's got. Sorry, I've just had a slight issue with my my software that I'm using. It just decided to completely crash, so I'm fully manual now. This could be exciting for everyone.
That is absolutely fine. Still got plenty of action to bring you, and I'm sure everyone in the chat will agree, Mike. You've done a fantastic job of it so far, considering you're riddled with the Rona, and it's the first broadcast you've done. So yeah, very impressive so far, keeping track of all of the action so far. But let's go back to the race order at the moment. So Andrew Wellborn still sitting in P1 with Josh Copeland, as we saw a couple of laps ago, getting himself up into P2. Kiki Mack is still holding off Alex Osborne for P3, with Alex McGee and Chris Rock in P5 and 6. Joe Challoner. In fact, that's a change for position because Challoner has lost a position to Chris Rock. Harry Fulton and Urus Hujak are in P8 and 9, and Zenko in P10, with then Jenkins, Hartnick, Walker, Neutelings, Waldridge, Poe, and Colin Dunn rounding out the 17 running cars. Of course, Dunn getting caught up in a few incidents early doors, and of course, as Mark mentioned a little bit earlier, stuck not moving on track as well. Hujak just seems to be struggling a bit now, Mark, doesn't he? I don't know whether that fighting has just done a bit of damage or anything like that, but seems to be struggling a little bit. Does the 76 BMW?
Yeah, something's definitely happened. I think there was a bit of contact, but unfortunately, because the software's crashed, I can't go back to it. I am trying to fix it my end.
You've got to love modern technology. It's always the best. Matej Zenko going into pit lane, you can see there. So another pit stop. Again, this must be planned from the number 43 BRU SW Sim Solutions Aston Martin. That is a really what's the word, artistic livery, you've got to say. Mark Neutelings, you can see there, still in the car in the second of the Positive Perception Racing cars. Treble 6 BMW up into P14, not quite on the pace moment, 46.2 on the last lap. We know Mark's got some pace on that as a... there you go, Mark. That's what you want to hear. Craig 885S is a first stream. It's excellent. He wouldn't have thought it was the first one you've did. So there you go. So
very, very kind.
Smashing it out of the top draw straight off the bat. You love to see it.
I'm trying to find all the hotkey shortcuts so I can do things a bit quicker.
That's absolutely fine. We'll get the action to you one way, shape or form, I have no doubt. Mark Neutelings here, just going back to him. So not the best start for him, of course. Beyond his control, it looked like just trying to avoid some of the incidents in the first couple of corners at the start of this race. And unfortunately, he's been a bit of a passenger in terms of getting caught up in there and dropped down the order as a result. I would have thought, I mean, it depends on how long and whether he's fixing any damage, but he might close up to Matej Zenko in the 43 Aston Martin. They've changed driver. I've just literally seen as that happens, Lewis is into the car. Of course, there's a 3-driver team, those guys in the Aston Martin. Lewis into the car, and you can see they're just coming out of the pit lane now. So that is the change done, and there's still going to be a nice big gap between himself and Neutelings between P13 and 14. You can actually see on the track map just coming out of the pit lane, and you can see Mark Neutelings, a 666 car, just going into the first of the 2 Ramazzas. So that is going to be quite a decent gap indeed. What he's got to do, Daniel Lewis, now is try not to get caught up and lose too much time behind the 2 guys behind him, which I believe is Joe Challoner, and I think that's Colin Dunn and Chris Rock in the background as well. So hopefully you won't lose too much time. So those guys, although you will lose time, Mr. Lewis, if you slide through Villeneuve and early doors on those tyres, that's not really what you want to be doing, because that is going to harm them, as you mentioned, Mark, quite heavily if you're sliding sideways through corners at the start of your stint.
What a save, though. What a save.
Oh, God, yeah. I tell you, it's the Aston Martin, man. It's easy. You can do that kind of thing, and you can come out of it probably quicker than you were before, which is exactly what you need in a car, and exactly what I want in a car anyway.
Well, the comparison I'm drawing there is Adame style livery. That was very Tokyo Drift.
Ah, very good. Very, very tenuous. I love that link.
Bringing out the dad jokes on a Saturday night, aren't we?
Absolutely. You love to see it. But yeah, down in P13 is Daniel Lewis at the moment, so that will change, of course. That will shake out. They were just a little bit below, just outside of the top 10 a few laps ago after that mistake from Zenko. A couple of laps back, Chris Rock, you can see in the number 11 car, he's got Colin Dunn behind him, and that's Harry Fulton in the car behind him as well. So the BMW just further adrift there. Colin, of course, currently propping up the field at the moment. Not how he would have wanted this race to go, but you saw the state of that Ferrari after the first couple of corners. They've made one pit stop to fix that damage, and they'll be running that car, I'm sure, as deep as possible into the race now, and really just try and limit the amount of time they've spent in the pit lane, you'd think. Just try and make sure that tyres if you need to, fuel, driver swap, and just get out there and carry on.
Yeah, I did spot the indicator go on there for the Dunn Motorsport Positive Perception Ferrari as well, to let Harrison know to go forth and get on the back of Mr. Rock's tail.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see Colin not getting too much in the way of the faster cars there, which I'm sure Harry will be very appreciative of, because he's actually in theory, it's actually promoted him right onto the back of Chris Rock. Is he going to go for a move into Tozer? He's probably a little bit too late, a little bit daring. He's gone for it, though. Door's been left open by Chris Rock, and Harry Fulton's gone, thank you very much. I will take that all day long. Into Tozer. He's up into P7. That move wasn't on until Chris Rock just left that door wide open. That was a really strange move from the SWMD car.
Really out of character for Chris to leave a door open as well. He's normally one of the hardest people to pass on track when I've raced him. Yeah, it's very unusual to see him letting someone by that easily. Maybe his tyres are, just on that edge of going off.
Yeah, absolutely. Really strange. Whatever the case, you wouldn't have expected that move to be as easy as it was, but nonetheless, the move has been done, and that promotes Harry Fulton up into P7. It's been a good race for the number 76 car. Sorry, the number 17 car. Sorry, so far in this one, been getting quite a few positions up the road as it stands, and that's another one courtesy of a very uncharacteristic. I wouldn't call it an error, but choice of line from Chris Rock there, as we can see there. That's Lewis again, for some reason, into the pits. Not sure what's happened there. Don't know whether there's been any contact there. As you can see, our race leader, Andrew Wellborn, out in a league of his own at the moment, because he goes through Aqua Minerale for another time. He's quite comfortable at the moment. I mean, I'm looking at the track map, and he has got quite a bit of a gap between himself and Josh Copeland behind. Hopefully we can see the gaps in just a second, and we'll confirm exactly how big that gap is. But he's looking really rather comfortable, and when they go for that driver change shortly, I'm sure he'll be pretty pleased with the stint that he's done so far, won't he, Mark? Because he's really not put a foot wrong in this race.
He hasn't. I just noticed a little tiny slide there coming from the final corner, so those back tyres on that Aston Martin are definitely starting to show a little bit of wear. The car's going to get a little bit looser, a little bit more unpredictable. So, yeah, the pit stops, they are coming.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a few people stop already. I can see that Lewis is still in the car, I believe. In fact, have we lost him from the race? I don't know what's happened there, but I can see they've disappeared off the timing chart. So, retirement for the number 43 Aston Martin car, which is a bit of a shame. Unfortunately, not what we wanted to see from those guys, but Zanko, Lewis and co are out of this race, it seems, so no points to be gained from them. That does promote Colin Dunn rather, shall I say, up into P16. Everyone else stays as you were for the time being. Oh, excuse me. Goodness me, I need to have more caffeine, it seems, to get myself through the rest of this evening.
I've just had some delivered. It's been fantastic. Thanks to my fiance for providing me some Coca-Cola. Other brands are available.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a Tesco Value ex-cola man myself. No, none of this Pepsi Max, Coke Zero nonsense. 50p a 2 litre bottle does the job.
The perk of having to isolate is my parents provided us a bit of a care package the other day.
Nice. Anything worth noting in there? Any goodies apart from Coke, of course?
There was a couple of sort of sweeties which were definitely needed to perk our spirits, but nothing of immense value. Bourbon biscuits or custard creams.
Yes, we do need to talk biscuits at some point, don't we? Because apparently I'm very upper class by enjoying a bourbon biscuit. I haven't actually got any with me this evening, but what I do have is, and I haven't had a chance to munch down on it just yet, but I've got some orange dairy milk.
I'm very jealous.
Looking forward to getting into. If there's something I enjoy, it's orange flavoured chocolate. You cannot beat it in my eyes.
You can't. And I think on that note, talk about fluids and hydration for this sort of event. These guys are going to be needed. Are they going to have a chance to get a drink on the straights? Have that little bit of extra food just to give them that little lift. I mean, I know doing the 24-hour event, I needed snacks. I needed that sugary hit. I was doing 2-hour stints. You came off it, you were knackered. These guys, yes, they're only doing shorter stints, but the racing so far, it's been so intense. They're going to be absolutely, if this was a warm summer's day in England, they'd be sweating.
Yeah, absolutely. It is one of them. As we can see, one of the front runners, I think that is Fulton, I believe, going through. So Jake Jenkins into pit lane as well. So couple more scheduled pit stops, it looks like, for those two coming into pit lane. So 9th and 10th respectively as it stands at the moment. But yeah, I've done a 24-hour race myself and I know the feeling. It was, when did I do that one? It was November. So again, not the warmest in the world, but it was, it really kind of saps your concentration, saps your energy levels, having to keep focused for that long. Because like I said, we did the same. We did double stints, and I started the race as well. So it was very, very busy. There was 52 cars in the race. So starting, I think we started just outside the top 20, and it was really, really busy early doors. It looks like actually Lewis is back into the server, which is good to see. I don't know if we can see the battle for P5 as well. Ant's suggesting the battle for P5 between McGee and Challoner is looking rather spicy as well. So we'll get onto that in just a moment and see what's happening there. In fact, yeah, so this is Kiki Mack. Oh, so sorry, it's battle for P4. Sorry, so it's Kiki Mack being put under a bit of pressure from Alex McGee. So he's dropped back into the clutches of McGee, hasn't he, Mark? I mean, he's not that far behind Osborne, I don't think, but it seems like Alex is maybe just getting back into the swing of things a bit and starting to turn the wick up again.
And they've also got Harrison just up the road. Or not Harrison, sorry. They've swapped. Oh no, it's still Harrison in the car. So they are lapping Harrison Peter now. Harrison absolutely getting into the middle of the action there. But to be fair to him, he had nowhere else to go.
No, it was one of them. Would you, in hindsight, obviously it's good. It's easy from our position. We can tell. We can see exactly what's going on, and we can tell what people not what they should be doing. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but what I thought he should have done is just backed out of it going into Vilna, but he didn't, and it's fine because everyone came out of it okay. But I can imagine Alex McGee maybe feeling a little bit ticked off and a little bit aggrieved there, just by the way that Fulton got away, but he did. Like I say, everyone is still going. I can see there Stiggles, so the teammate of Jake Jenkins, has got a stop-go 30, and that is the worst feeling in the world. I've had that myself. When you come out of the pit lane and you get the stop-go penalty for someone else speeding into the entry of the pit lane, it is a real kind of sucker punch to the teeth, isn't it? Especially when it's not your fault.
It's an absolute kicker in the guts. It really is. You know, it's one of those you've got no control over, and you don't want to shout at the guy because he's your teammate, but you're just fuming. You know, track cuts, deep drive-throughs. You know, in fact, with the drive-throughs in this game, you know, it's 3 of them, and those 3 are accumulated per car, not per driver. So you know, if you're the guy that's accumulated the 3, and then somebody else does the 4th, that's a drive-through, and that's frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I did a race at Donington a few months back. I think it was August, September time, and had the same problem. I got into the car and I had 3 track limits warnings. I thought, right, well, I've got to do a stint now, so I don't think I'm going to get away without doing anything. I don't think I'm going to be able to stop that old Poe in the background there coming out of toes and getting a little bit out of shape. Dan Lewis disconnected, unfortunately, you see for the Mat 3Z in there, which is a really big shame. We can see, I did see him come back in, but looks like not able to return, unfortunately, which is a big shame for them.
Looks like Stiggles is serving the penalty right now as well, so they're coming in the same lap. Same's warming the tyres all the way up to their full potential, and then having them cool down rapidly in pit lane. You might as well do it when they're only vaguely warm.
Yeah, 100%, and it will make things easier. And as I said, just get out of the way, let you done. You can focus on your stint, and you can really just kind of get cracking on it. It's like I said, it's not ideal. It's not his fault, of course. The fault will, well, unless he's very uncleverly decided to, very, very, what's the word? Stupidly decided to speed out of the pit lane, but I don't think that would have been the case. He served it now, though. It's all done, and look, the stop go 30 can lose you a bit of time anyway, because obviously it's really the harshest of penalties you can get. But at this kind of track like Imola, you don't lose as much time as you would for somewhere like a Spa, for example, with the longest pit lane of the entirety of the entire world. It's probably about as long as any normal racetrack, to be fair. The amount of time it feels like you spend in there when you have to do a stop go, but you do a stop go penalty.
It is. It's the longest pit lane in this game, and it's the most frustrating if you get that stop go, or even just a drive-through. You know, it's almost a lap with a drive-through penalty. It's horrendous.
Yeah, it's really not what you. It's something you want to avoid at all costs. At the end of the day, I think that's exactly how you put it. You can still see in the foreground Alex McGee still putting the pressure on Kiki. Matt not managing to make a move just yet. Matt Zenko saying hello into the chat. Matt, good evening to you. Sorry to see that you have, unfortunately, of course, retired from the race. Big shame, because it looked like you were having a good race up until then, apart from that little mistake. Don't worry, we saw it, that little mistake coming out of the second Ravazza not long before that retirement. Hopefully be back and fighting for the next round in a few weeks, which, as I've mentioned already, will be at Silverstone on the 19th of February. We then head to Spa on the 12th of March, Kyalami on the 2nd of April, Donington Park on the 23rd of April, and Suzuka will round things off the final race of the season on the 14th of May. So yeah, still 5 races to do after this. And if they're anything like what we've seen in the first hour of this one, I think we're going to see some pretty good action throughout the championship. And with the points as they are, as you mentioned, Mark, of course, points all the way down the field. But the differences between the positions, if we're looking at this now, so there's 1 point between P4 and P5. So it's those kind of things. If you can keep consistent and you can keep some pretty decent results, you've got a good chance of taking the championship in this one, even if you potentially don't win a single race.
Yeah, and thanks to Colin Dunn and his amazing spreadsheets abilities, it will actually be points for drivers as well, individually, because we knew there was going to be a few drivers who would be dipping in and out of the series. We've sort of kept it so it's cars and then it's individual points as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to have that kind of incentive as well, isn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong, I always love to be into the thick of things in terms of racing and commentary, no matter what it is. To be fair, it's nice to be on either side, and sometimes it's nice to do these sorts of things, but like I say, it kind of incentivizes the reason for these guys to continue racing. And like I say, it's a shame that Zenko and the guys have dropped out. I know that it can be one of those things that can be quite frustrating, quite disheartening to drop out and be in such a position, but if you can kind of bring yourself back to do it, those points can be very valuable and potentially can be the kind of thing that makes and breaks positions in the championship in a few months' time as well. But remains to be seen. Kiki Matt, though, still trying to hold off Alex McGee, still under a bit of pressure from the positive perception Audi, number 45 car, and the Golden Eye car and the Aston Martin still sitting in P4 for now. But Alex McGee, as close as he has been over the last few laps, coming out of the second of the 2 Ravazzas, coming down the start-finish straight, he is closing quite quickly. It looks like he's certainly closing the gap. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move unless it's a very big send into Tamburello. No, just sits on the outside. And interesting line from Kiki Matt there, just elects to go for the lesser spotted middle of the track route in terms of defending. He didn't really pick a lane, just went, yeah, I'll stick it in the middle, you can go whichever way you want if you've got the space to do so, which I thought was quite interesting.
What I spotted as Kiki went over the line was his lap time. It was a 1:45 compared to his best time of a 1:43. Is he fuel saving? That's my wonder. And we're now over the hour. This is when the fuel tanks are going to be getting lighter. So here are some of the drivers fuel saving. Yeah,
absolutely. It's something to keep an eye out for. Are the fuel maps being changed? Are the lift and coast tactics being employed? Just to make things a little bit more flexible. This is the kind of time where that can really make the difference between doing one stop or two. If you can get an hour and 10 minutes into this race on one tank of fuel, if you include the formation lap in that as well, in theory you can make it to the end of the race if you employ the same tactics. But Alex is looking around the outside into Variante Alta. That's not where his move's going to happen. It nearly does, though. Nearly gets up the inside into the second apex, gets himself a very tight line as a result, and cannot make the move stick. But somehow, despite the fact he got a very slow exit out of that corner, he's managed to stick right on the back. And going into the first of the 2 Ravazzas, is he alongside going into the first apex? He's not. Kiki Matt leaves a bit of space, though. Very sensible racing from the 2 of them, hard but fair from the Aston Martin and the Audi, and it's going to be battle or attempt number 2 from Alex McGee, although he's a bit further back coming on to the start finish straight on this occasion, so he's going to have to try and work a little bit harder and get that gap down before he can make the move again. It seems to me, Mark, that Kiki Mack is proving quite the difficult person to pass at the moment in that in that Aston Martin.
He really is. He's one of a kind. That guy. He's very fair on track with his moves. You know, he'll never intentionally block, but he will make that Aston Martin very wide if he wants to.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to see as well, though. It's some people, I think, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but some people can be quite what's the word? Quite easy to overtake. They're not really put up a good fight in terms of wanting to hold on to the position. It's almost like they would rather have no contact than keep a position. And I think that's fine. I think in the main that's understandable. People obviously don't want to get contact, and you don't want people to be getting into incidents all the time and things like that. But I think it's good when you've got that balance and that ability to be able to effectively, to balance the two. So be aggressive but assertive and hold on to position at the same time. What they've got to take into account now, though, is that it was Jake Jenkins. It's not Jake Jenkins anymore. It's Stiggles in the car at the moment in that Audi just ahead of them. He's currently sitting in P14. That's a back marker for them. So we'll see whether they will come a cropper of those two. Ashley Wootton, good evening to you, sir, in the chat. Great racing so far. Yes, it has been full of action in the first hour of this race so far. And if you haven't done already, it's probably a good point to mention. You always see Alex McGee peeling off into pit lane. So will there be a driver swap there? They probably, Mark, I wouldn't have thought. You probably know the Audi better than I do. Again, not a car I've driven too much, but I would have thought that car, subject to some quite impressive fuel saving and if he does come in now, won't make it to the end on one tank of fuel more than what they've got already, I don't think.
From speaking to the guys earlier, they were thinking possibly a two-stop, probably with splash and dash for the second one. So I imagine we'll see Ant in the car now, and then we'll see where they end up.
Yeah, absolutely. See if the undercut will help them out in this one to get past Kiki Mack, because they've not managed to do it so far, and he's proving a rather difficult customer to get past. But yes, as I was going to say, if you're new to the channel, if you've not been on this channel before, then welcome along. This is the Positive Slip Boys Endurance Championship held on Assetto Corsa Competency, only round 1 of 6 here at the Autodromo Dino de Ferrari at Imola. And we have been treated to some fantastic racing so far. And if you haven't done, then make sure you slap the like button on the stream and make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified and aware of all of the other races that we have in this championship over the next 3.5 to 4 months, because you're going to want to see the rest of them. Even if it's not myself and Mark taking you through the action, there's other people in there as well. It'd be nice to see you drop in and say hello as well, and tell your friends, get them all involved, and we'll make this a bit of a party atmosphere for the 5 rounds that continue after this. Interestingly, just looking at that, just looking on the screen at the moment, it looks like Alex McGee's actually stayed in the car. Oh no, sorry, no, it has changed. It was my my screen being very slow, I think. It does look like Ant Brown is now, in fact, is now actually in the car. I don't think the timing tower updated properly.
It does, like
confirmation. Yeah, he's definitely in the car now. I can see that on the screen. So yeah, confirmation Ant Brown has switched over between himself and Alex McGee. So the other 45 car driver is back into the race, sorry. And of course, he set the pole position lap time, didn't he, Mark? So we know he's got some pace. So let's see if he can translate that into race pace as well.
He definitely has some pace in his cold garage. That's where he sim races from. The Code Brown Towers, as we call it. His nice cold garage down there somewhere in Somerset, I believe.
A lovely part of the world. Lovely part of the world.
Speaking of the communities, which I think we probably should do, we should probably give a rundown of what we all do, I guess.
Well, you could start, can't you, Mark? You can tell everyone a little bit about positive perception, can't you? You're probably better at doing it than I am anyway.
So, for those of you who don't know, I am the owner, operator, director, manager, head scratcher of Positive Perception. We do many things. We do custom liveries, not ones, like there are some on screen, but not that particular one. I will find some later. I can't do 2 things at once. We also do custom products as well. We do mugs, towels, you name it, basically, and I'll produce it. We also have our own sim racing league, we're not just involved with this one. We also have a Thursday night multi-class extravaganza running fortnightly, which has seen 2 rounds now. In the commentary box with me is the double GT4 winner at the current time. Multi-class racing, 1 hour races with 1 mandatory pit stop. It's been absolutely fantastic season for that so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad as well. So thank you for mentioning the fact that double winner of the GT4 races so far. So 2 wins from 2. Hopefully, I mean, it was a quiet race for me on Thursday night, so I'm hopefully not going to see that change with any steward meetings following up. But yeah, it's well, look, I can speak from it from a driving point of view as well. The driving so far, it's only been my second race in the championship, has been absolutely fantastic, to be fair. And it's a multi-class format that, and sounds like I'm gushing now, doesn't it? But you've hit the nail on the head in how to manage multi-class racing. Not many people do it well. Normally, you get a lot of moans and grumbles from the GT4 cars when you see, oh, GT3 sent it on me again, oh, he's gone up the inside really late and shoved me out of the way and all that sort of stuff. But the GT3 cars in the PPGT Championship are very, very good, I've got to say.
GT brackets free.
In brackets 3, sorry, yes. Let me get the name right.
It's our 3rd season of doing GT multi-class racing, and I think we've finally refined the format.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you do want to join, then we'll pop a link for the Discord in the chat as well when we get a moment, so you can get jumped into that. In terms of the other guys, so of course it's not just Positive Perception who are part of this joint community venture in terms of the Endurance Championship. The Slip and Grip community have been running for just over a year now, and they have a fully packed Wednesday night Assetto Corsa League, which is currently running a V8 Supercars season. Now, I'll be honest, not my cup of tea. I can't handle the V8 Supercars to save my life. I prefer something with a little bit more of stability aids in terms of things like traction control and things like that, because I've got a very heavy right foot.
They've got ABS. They have got ABS. And they need ABS.
I can deal with that ABS. I'm not having ABS is fine. It's the lack of traction control. I've got a lead foot. I can't stop the cars from spinning. It's horrendous. But yes, they got the AC, V8 Supercars and AC on a Wednesday night, and every week a British GT League on ACC as well. So if that's the kind of thing that takes your fancy, if you like those short, confined park circuits on ACC, then make sure you jump into them as well. And again, we'll get links in the chat for all 3 of these if we can. And then finally, last but not least, is the Bois. And AC League is not far off, starting with MX-5s, which is a car that everyone enjoys. It's the staple of when you start off things like iRacing, for example, and they produce some fantastic racing. And they have a tri-weekly ACC League with GT3 cars hosted on Saturday evenings as well. So it runs, I suppose, in line with this. I think the last race, Mark, if I'm not mistaken, was last Saturday, I believe. Was it Bathurst? On Saturday last week?
Saturday before, we did... Oh, where did we do?
Monza, sorry.
Monza, yes, Monza. It was Monza.
Yes.
Next time out is next week, and we are at my favourite circuit, for those of you who know me, Laguna Seca.
Oh.
I'll be loving that
track. I do not like that track. I'll be honest.
Nor do I. I'll be...
Oh, I didn't... Should have hit me the tone there, shouldn't I, really?
Sarcasm.
Absolutely. Oh, God, yeah, it's a... I'm sure the track's great to go to, and the racing there is brilliant, but the thing I hate about that track is those unholy sausage curbs. They're enormous things, and if you hit one of them, your race is ruined, probably in a wall. And I can't stand the things.
It's one of those circuits to me that it's fine to look at, but that's all I want to do with it.
I can never get the corkscrew right as well. It doesn't matter what car I use. I always struggle to go through it in a straight line. Oh, we should probably go back to the action now. Andrew Wellborn trying to get past. I'm trying to catch who that is. I believe, well, it's one of the BMWs. I believe my screen has disappeared on me, so I can't actually tell you exactly who it is, but I believe that is the number 40 car of Niels Brewer. Yes, it is. As Ant Brown goes at the inside there as well. They're fighting at the moment. In fact, that's Ant Brown going past Brewer to go into P6 on track as the leader, Andrew Wellborn, goes into pit lane, stops on his marks, down to, 50 kilometres an hour, 50 mile an hour, sorry, the pit lane speed. and releases Brown. And as Ashley Wootton's mentioned in the chat, expect Ant to turn the wick up and start climbing back through the field. He's done that so far, Ash, because he's already moved at one position. Niels Brewer dispatched, taken care of, and up into P6 on track. That will be, I believe, Mark, I think that's going to be a net P3 as well, because I believe that was Alex Osborne who was in that car before, and I'm sure he was running P3 just before the changeover, so potentially a net P3 for the number 45 car.
It could well be. I've just spotted Kiki Max in the pits as well, so could see some more position hot swapping at the front, which does confirm to me that Kiki Max was fuel saved, because there's no way that Aston's doing this race this sort of time, surely.
So having driven it before, I drove it at the 24 Hours of Spa back in November. It will do on a full tank just over 70 minutes. So I think it would be doable, but that's running on the more kind of, the more reserved fuel map for the stint as well. So, like you say, I think probably would have done a fair bit of fuel saving to get it that far. The fact that they've gone, that's 73 minutes, 75 minutes nearly. That's, I think you're right. There's definitely been a little element of fuel saving there. We'll see where Kiki, it won't be Kiki that comes back into there. You can see McKinley has jumped into the car. Presumably, you'd think to go to the end. 70 minutes on that car. If Kiki can do it, then Joe McKinley can do it as well, because all it needs is a little bit of lifted coast towards the end, if absolutely necessary, and that will get them to the end rather nicely. It looks like Ant Brown is potential. I mean, you assume that Ant Brown is going to get the move done. The one person he's not going to be able to get the move done on is Josh Copeland. He's still sitting, he's sitting in P4 now. He's pitted, sorry, and because he's on his own, we don't need to worry about who the driver changeover is for him, because he will be driving on his own for the entire race. So 2 hours and 24 minutes on your own. That's it's going to be tough, isn't it? That's quite a long stint to do.
That's very
especially when you get that, you can see everyone else, can't you? You can see, oh god, right, they've changed the driver. He's going to be fresh, and you're sat there going round and round and round for that period of time. It can get quite tiring after a while, can't it?
Yeah, tiring and monotonous. Interestingly, so I don't think Mr. Rock has pitted, and I don't know if Challoner's pitted either yet. So eking out that BMW fuel efficiency there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think P1 and P3 haven't pitted. Of course, Purcell is the teammate of Andy Wellborn, so he's come in, and you see there Joe Challoner does now pit. I would expect to see Chris Rock come into the pits on this lap as well, which he does. So now that looks to me, correct me if I'm wrong, apart from just looking at the names on the timing tower, I was going to say the one person, in fact, two people haven't changed. No, I'm going to have to keep counting these as I go through. One of them you just put on screen, that was Mark Neuting, so he's coming into the pits, so he will change over to James Jackson. Colin Dunn, I assume, will come into the pits very soon as well. And he will change over to, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, is Jamie Buchanan,
correct,
who is teammate for him in this race. Hartnick and Walker are in the pits as well. So that means that, is it Steve Aldridge, I think it is? He will be the last person to change driver.
It could be Sam, or it could be Steve. there's two Waldridge.
I can never remember this kind of thing. It's one of those. I have fallen foul. I called someone who I think was actually called Simon. I think I called him Sebastian in a race before, which he found really funny. Which is Sam Waldridge. There you go. Apologies, Sam. I will try to never get that wrong again, but I don't want to promise anything. I'm assuming that is where the SW out of SWMD racing comes from. I would have thought. I'm just trying to realise and put two and two together and actually try and figure out what the MD would be for. I'm going to tell you in a second, because I'm hoping I can find out.
I have no idea. Maybe they'll pop one of them. When they finish their stint, they can pop down to the interview room in the Positive Perception Discord, have a chat. We're always open to visitors here. We don't bite hard. Absolutely,
yeah. I mean, it's not going to be Rakesh Patel, who is Sam Waldridge's teammate, because that's RP. It's not MD, so that's not going to be the case. James Jackson, you can see there getting, I think that's a stop go 30 for his troubles. That's going to be because he's not speeding in the pit lane, so not gone Mark's way up until this point, which is a real shame and not what you want to see. So only two cars as it stands, are yet to change their drive. In fact, 2 cars are yet to change their driver, which is Poe and Colin Dunn, the last 2 on track at the moment. They will change soon, I have no doubt, but they were 2 cars that pitted a little bit later on into the race than the others, so they have got that chance to run a little bit further into the race, haven't they? And well, go for a bit of a converse strategy to everyone else. They're a little bit further down the field, as you can see, but I mean, James Jackson with that stop-go 30, that could promote Colin Dunn up into P14. It'd be interesting to see whether Poe gets the same benefit from that as well.
Yeah, it's all about the strategy, and then coming to the back end of the race, are we going to see more cars diving into the pits to take on that extra couple of litres of fuel that they need to finish the race? Is that going to happen? We just don't know. It's fantastic action.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Steve Aldridge in chat saying nice to see the SWMD Ajax guys doing well. It is indeed. And Steve, if you're able to confirm who MD is in SWMD, I'd be very much appreciative, because I can't figure that out for love nor money, and I don't want to make a mistake again. I don't want to say the complete wrong name. Ash Wootton offering to join forces with Josh Copeland, but he thinks he's too slow. You never know. It's always worth a go. And to be fair, as Josh is proving, you don't have to race with someone if you want to be part of this championship. So if you're capable of doing a couple of hours on your own, which everyone is, I can tell you that for nothing, then make sure you get signed up. If you go to the top of the chat, you should hopefully see the Sim Racing GP link, as Poe just gets the back end of that Mercedes AMG GT3 car a little bit crossed up into the first of 2 Ratzers and goes onto the gravel as a backup of the second one as well.
Colin into the pits as well now.
Yes, correct. Yeah, James Jackson serving that stop-go 30 penalty. So yeah, going to drop down, and Colin Dunn into the pits as well. So that's going to be a drive change. Jamie Buchanan going to take over there. You'd assume, again, just to run to the end of the race, that car will easily do just under 65 minutes of running in this one. And what I'm looking at, Mark, is the fact that Josh Copeland has actually inherited the lead of this race from the Wellborn Purcell team. I don't know whether that is something to do with, whether he is, do you know what I've just thought? He might well have not, he probably wouldn't have struggled to get that far, but I wonder if he's not changed tyres and just pitted for fuel, because that could surely be the only way he can pit quicker than someone who was arguably, 15 seconds ahead of him before the pit stop phase.
Yeah, tyres is 30 seconds, having a full tank of gas is only about 15, so that does save you some time, quite a lot of time. So potentially that's a very clever strategy from Josh there.
Yeah, absolutely. Confirmation from Steve Wooldridge in the chat. Thank you, Steve. Sam Wooldridge, Motorsport Design. That's what SWMD stands for. He is the livery man.
Of course.
And, as I said earlier, a very good livery indeed, I've got to say. The colour combinations of that Lamborghini really do look nice. He's overtaken me a few times in the Positive Perception GT season so far, obviously, because he's in a GT3 car and I'm in a little Porsche Cayman GT4, so that's going to happen, but he's come through past me a few times, and it's a very good looking car, I've got to say.
They're all fantastic looking in this series. I'm very impressed. As a livery designer myself, it's always fantastic to see your own artwork on track, but it's always nice to see others who put in the same amount of love, care and attention to detail as myself. People will tell you I'm very anal with my designs. I will fuss over the minutest of detail. If 1 pixel is out of position, I will be upset.
That's exactly the level of perfectionism or perfectionist nature, whatever you call it. That's what we like to see, and that's what, like I say, I think that's what makes these series look as good as they race, because when you've got cars that look like they do at the moment, they just look really, really good. And you can see in the background here, that is it's Matthew Davies on track at the moment, and that's Marcel Stange in the second of the 2 SWMD cars. See matching liveries with BMW on this one. I've noticed that now. I'm seeing putting 2 and 2 together as we go through this race.
So Mr. Rock has teamed up with an alien. We know
Marcel.
Marcel,
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
race winner, wasn't he? Zolder in the week.
Yeah, he has a lot of pace. He's well renowned for being very quick. So I don't think it will be long before he gets past Matt.
No, it looks like Matt's under a little bit of pressure in the Lifeboat Legends number 99 for BMW. It's equal machinery, so think of this like a spec series for these two at the moment. And you can see there, I think that is one of the Fulton cars. Oh no, it's Benton, sorry, in the car at the moment. Just a bit further back on track there. It's a BMW, there's 5 in a row at the moment. All 7 of them are still running, but P6 through to P10 are all in the BMW M4, which shows you, if you've not driven an ACC before, I think it shows you that the BMW is a rather favourite car of quite a few people due to its very predictable nature, apart from when you put your foot on the floor and the back end squeals like a stuck pig and starts to wobble all over the place. But anyway, going down into Acqua Minerale, it's this real undulations that really make this iconic Imola circuit the what it is. They come up the hill towards Variante Alta, and Marcel stands just making Matthew aware that he's there. Not that I think he's forgotten when you've got a car that quick sat behind you, but just reminding you, going, look, I'm still here, son. I'm still going to make a move at some point. I just want to remind you that I will be going for the move at some point soon. Will he do it going down into Ravazza 1? He won't. Again, just does the same thing again, just reminds him he's there, puts the pressure on, as it looked like Matthew Davies got a little bit out of shape, misses the apex into the second Ravazza. He's going to get a really, I say a really poor exit, that's really harsh, but he's not going to get a great exit coming on to the start finish straight, and they are close, of course, equal machinery, so there's no difference in top speed between them. Only the slipstream will do, but Marcel Stanger's got all the slipstream he needs because he's going to shape to the right-hand side. He's going to try and go around the outside into Tamburello. The 3 apex corner, he's going to go from the outside to the inside to the outside again. Can he get the move done? Round the outside. Oh, that is an aggressive and assertive move from Marcel Stanger. He was not waiting around at all, and he's a man on a move, isn't he, Mark? That was a very aggressive move from the number 11 car. Sorry.
Show Marcel a gap, and he will take it. He's one of those drivers that just holds nothing back on track. You know, I've been on board of him one of his qualifying sessions, and the speed he can carry is just insane. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very impressive indeed. Ashley Woodson, Matt is no slouch either. That was not, apologies, not what I was suggesting. I'm not suggesting Matt is a slouch, and I think we've just agreed that Marcel Stange is very, very quick indeed. We saw that in the Positive Perception GT season race at Zolder on Thursday. He was incredibly quick in that one. Andy Benton has got Baldwin behind him for company in the second of the, or now 4 Ferraris, because Sam Waldridge has made it past Kershmank in the BMW. Interesting to see that Waldridge is still the only man in that car. I don't know whether that's because his teammate isn't available for this race and he's driving it solo, but still driving the car at the moment. As Andy Benton holding on through Variante Alta, he's getting under a bit of pressure, just gets a little bit out of shape coming out of the exit of the corner, and that's going to give Baldwin the chance to put him under a bit more pressure. 10 seconds for Craig. I'm not entirely sure what that means, I've got to be honest. From McGeezy Does It Sim Racing.
It's an in joke with the slip and grip guy. Anytime there's an issue, it's always 10 seconds for Craggle.
To be fair, I saw that earlier, I think. So yeah, okay, I'm glad you clarified that. I was wondering what that was all about, because I saw the word Craggle in the chat. I was thinking, what the hell's going on here? That seems a little bit strange, but I've clarified that now. So we'll see how this race is. Just under the hour gone. The hour left, sorry. We've had an hour and 25 minutes in this race so far. So well past the hour point, as you see. That's Baldwin there. Alistair Baldwin going very, very out of shape into Tamburello. Just got all sorts of crossed up going into the first corner and into the gravel as a result. Jamie Buchanan now, as we said before, confirmation, he is now in the Positive Perception Dunn Motorsports car, the 750 machine, and he is sitting in P15. Poe behind him on track, James Jackson ahead, and that is Purcell in the number 23 Aston Martin, currently in P2, sat just behind him as they go through Villeneuve for another time and into Tozer as they start that run up the hill towards Piratella. That's Josh Copeland in the background, or in the foreground, sorry, that picture just left your camera shot. That shows you the gap between Josh Copeland and Purcell in the 2 top running cars. So that shows you that Josh has clearly managed to gain a little bit of time in that pit stop phase. We'll have to see whether Purcell can gain any of that time back. See if Jamie can do any of that. If we go on board, look at this down the hill into Acqua Minerale, really aggressive in that Aston Martin, on the power as early as you dare. Don't want to go wide there. You'll get a track cut warning, as up the hill towards Variante Alta. That throaty V8 roar from the Aston Martin down into first gear, takes the first apex. Variante Alta takes a second, takes a bit of curb but not too much, onto the exit again, onto the power as early as he possibly can, running down the hill towards Rivazza. You want to spot your braking point just as you see the track straighten up and try and hit that inside apex. He's missed it a little bit, sliding through there, takes a nice healthy bit of curb on the outside and into the second one, and again all over that exit curb to get the best exit possible. He's not actually fighting Jamie Buchanan for position at the moment, but that is a lovely camera shot. And there you go, confirmation mark. S&G have an official rule that all incidents are Craig's fault, and he will receive a 10-second penalty. So you are absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Not that I doubted you for a second, of course.
No, it's fine. What I have just noticed, Marcel Stange now has the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, no messing around from the number 11 BMW. We told you he was quick, and he's certainly proving our point up until now. I suppose the shame for him is that he's down in P6 and not further up the grid. I'm sure if he was a little bit further up the field, he would have been in for a chance of a podium, but I don't know if he'll have enough time to claw that gap back. I don't know what the gap is between P3, Ant Brown and Stange in P6. But 56 minutes, so still all to play for.
Something has just popped into my head that somebody reminded me of earlier. It was actually Poe. He's on it solo as well. I completely forgot. Kev can't make it tonight. So it's not just Josh Copeland on a solo mission tonight. It's also Poe in the AMG Toge 2. How do you say it? Toge Motorsport?
Tug, I thought it was. I don't know. Tug, I don't know. It's that Japanese thing, isn't it?
Yes. Tug Motorsports, number 8 AMG Mercedes. So it's 2, and they're bookending the fields at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, solo drivers, contrasting performances so far, though, which is a shame to see for Poe. But I mean, he got caught up in a couple of incidents, but he technically made up one position because of the unfortunate retirement for the Daniel Lewis and Matej Stanko car a little bit earlier on. So a position gain for Poe, despite the fact he's still propping up the field. This is your current leader then. This is Josh Copeland in the Elvis Juices Loose number 15 Lexus. That is a very fun name to say, but I imagine it's quite difficult when you've had a few bottles of pop later on in the evening. But it's a Brewdog themed livery, isn't it? You can see the Brewdog mentioning on the right hand on the side pods of the car, and that it's one of them. You know, you wouldn't even need to see the word Brewdog on the side. It looks like that kind of car, doesn't it? They've got such a good kind of brand in terms of it's instantly recognisable where that's come from.
Oh yeah, I love the microbrewery liveries. You know, they're absolutely fantastic. I've actually got a microbrewery opposite my main work, and I keep meaning to go over there and ask them, like, can I make a livery for you guys? Just, I want to.
I think we need to see that sooner rather than later, and if we can get someone into that for the second round of this race at Silverstone in a few weeks' time, I think that would be a very good idea, if I may say so myself.
The offer is on the table once I'm out of isolation and I can actually go and have a chat with them.
I was going to say, when you can go and speak to them, you're safe to do so.
Yeah, the offer is on the table for anyone out there who's watching who hasn't got a team drive, hasn't got a livery sorted. I'll do one. Not a problem.
Absolutely, yeah. Slide on into those DMs of Mr. Raddenbury and get a beautiful livery done. As you can see a perfect example of that on the screen, Ant Brown in the Positive Perception car livery. It's again, I would say in the same realms as the Brewdog liveries. It's something that as soon as you see it, you know exactly what it is. It doesn't matter what car on. It's one that suits every car that it goes on, I think. Of course, I'm driving it in the Cayman at the moment, and the fact you've put the little purple wing mirrors on is a nice touch as well.
I had to
have a little bit of. Let's change it up a little bit.
Yeah, it took me a while to come up with a sort of a theme, if you will, for a livery. I went through a couple of sort of mad phases with my liveries and just really jazzed them up. But this livery, you'll see it on all the Positive Perception Racing team cars this year. Whether I'm going to do 6 months with them in this livery and change it again, I don't know. But there's an ethos behind every single part of this design.
Lovely stuff. Always nice when Subliminal messaging is not the right word, but when there's some reasoning
No,
behind.
it is. It's subliminal.
You said it, not me. That's absolutely fine. Oh, good stuff. But yeah, Ants, he's doing a good job. Maybe he's lost the fastest lap of the race to Marcel Stage. We mentioned that a moment ago, who's sitting in P6, but he's currently sitting on the third step of the podium. Jamie Purcell and Josh Copeland still ahead of him at the moment, with Niels Brewer in one of the many BMWs sat in behind. Joe McKinley in the number 7 Aston Martin, that GoldenEye liveried car, in P5. Marcel Stange, as you mentioned, in P6. Davies, Benton, Baldwin and Wooldridge, the man on your screen at the moment, sitting in P10, with Kershmank, Parker, Stiggles, Jackson, Buchanan and Poe rounding out your 16 running cars in what is the first round, as you mentioned a few times, of the Positive Slip Boys GT3 Mini Endurance Championship. 2.4 hours, so 10% of your standard 24 race, so 2 hours and 24 minutes in total, and there's 51 or just under 52 minutes remaining of this one, and it's been a corker so far, from pretty much from the first corner, where Andrew Wellborn managed to make the move around the outside into Tamburello around the 45 Positive Perception Audi of Alex McGee at the time. Made a bit of a gap. Alex McGee came back to him, and they made a little mistake where Domen Kershmank is about to go into now. Just got a little bit too aggressive on those sausage curbs into the entrance into the Villeneuve chicane, and spun off, dropped down into P5. But as you can see, Ant Brown making the moves, and in fact has gone up into P2. I'm not sure if that's because Jamie Purcell's made a mistake, or whether that's been a move on track. I certainly didn't see them closing up at any point recently, but it looks as though you can see how close they are now. I did just see that. I didn't quite catch the lap time, but it looked like the most recent lap time of Jamie Purcell was a little bit slower. I don't know if he made a mistake. 1:45 or 4:46, sorry, a 46.1 on the last lap. So yeah, obviously made a little bit of a mistake, and that promotes number 45 car back into second place. See if he can close down Josh Copeland, who's about 8 to 10 seconds ahead on the road at the moment. So it's been full of action and full of incident as well. As we can see now, McKinley trying to make the move into Piratello on Niels Brewer doesn't manage to do it. It's not really the kind of position, Mark, where you'd expect to see a move done going into that corner. In fact, I remember in a community racing GT4 league a couple of months back, I very stupidly forgot my braking point into that corner and took out 4 or 5 people as well, and felt a little bit sheepish returning to the garage after that one.
I believe I was in that race and came across it.
Yeah, I can't remember if I took you out as well, but I won't name names, but the person I did take out wasn't particularly impressed. He was not a happy man.
I believe it was one of the admins, wasn't it? Just to further rub salt in your boots.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it.
Yeah, okay. Oh, back to the action, yeah.
Yeah, missed my braking point. Was very apologetic. I knew I'd done wrong. I knew I'd to put it appropriately, ballsed it up big time. So yeah, straight into the DMs, apologised profusely to the person whose race I impacted the most, and then just popped a little message into the chat just to mention to everyone else that I apologise for making a mistake. And yeah, a little bit silly. Oh, so a little bit of contact there. Niels Brewer losing the position to McKinley. Sorry, just to cut back to the action. Let's stop talking about my shortcomings and things like that. But McKinley with what looked like a fairly clear move, to be fair, but it just looked like Brewer just turned into the back of the Aston Martin, and such can be the physics in a Assetto Corsa competition. He just kind of got knocked out of the way a little bit. He's now kind of shrouding Poe to the outside as they go into Tozer. So he's clearly been a little bit kind of thrown out of the window of composure for that one, and drops himself down into P5. And as the gaps formed massively, it was 3 seconds, you would say now, just in the space of half a lap.
Easily, yeah. That's grown so quick. Has the BMW got a little bit of damage maybe to the front aero, just causing it just that little bit of understeer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it's not what you wanted to see. It's not what Niels Brewer would have wanted. It's not the way you want to move the position. I think the move itself, as I said before, I would say it was absolutely fine. There was nothing wrong with the move from McKinley. It just looked like it was one of those things. Just touched the back of the car, and Brewers was just really nothing he could really do, to be honest, in terms of that.
Yeah.
Go on.
just a little bit of maybe overdriving, not expecting the other car to come back as quickly as it had. I'd call it a racing incident. Others may see it differently. We shall see.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see whether there's going to be any protest from Niels. But I wouldn't have thought there would be. Like I say, I think he realises that there probably wasn't any malice there. I don't think. Again, if it was me in the decision room, should we say, I would say exactly the same. Mark that down as a racing incident, no further action, and just carry on as you were.
Yeah, speaking of which, the stewards, we're not using live stewards for these races purely because it's a lot of effort to do that. So all the results, they will be provisional until stewards have met from all three communities. It's not just one community doing the stewarding, it's all three of us coming together. One member of teams or admin crew meeting during the week after to fully discuss any reports we get.
Absolutely, it's nice to see a combined and cumulative approach in terms of how this thing is done. It's working very well so far, very well organised, and we've seen some great racing to boot as well. Alex McGee mentioning in the chat, I'm assuming it's definitely him. McGeezy does it sim racing. I mean, the play on words it's for us all there to see. We're going after Josh now, so Ant Brown is going to be hunting down Josh Copeland in the number 15 Elvis Juices Loose sim racing car. You can see the Lexus, you can see actually on the screen as you goes past the Audi of Neil Stiggles. You can see that is the gap, so it's not very big at all between P1 and P2. So with 46 and a bit minutes to go, things are going to start to spice up a little bit more than they already are doing. You can see there is Ant Brown. That is what, a 4, probably even a 3-second gap between P1 and P2. That has really gone down and shows you the pace that Ant Brown has in that Audi. We saw, of course, he put the car on pole by half a second from anyone else. Second position car was Andrew Wellborn in the number 23 Aston Martin, currently being driven by Jamie Purcell, who's now in P3. He really he eked out every little bit of performance out of that Audi and seems to be doing so again now. He's really starting to close the gap. We'll keep an eye on this and see how that gap continues to fall over the next couple of laps. And I would expect, Mark, that Josh is feeling a little bit of pressure.
Knowing Josh, he won't be feeling the pressure. He knows it's Ant behind him. He's raced Ant before. They're members of Slip and Grip together. So, they'll have done battle on track a lot. So they'll know each other inside out in terms of where they're going to defend and all that.
Yeah, we should make the battle that is about to happen all the more interesting, I'd have thought, as finally we see that Sam Wooldridge has finally given the car up, and Rakesh Patel, as you can see, just exiting the pit lane into the race. And I'd go down towards Taverno P13 on track, and as a result gets the stop go 30. So he will be having some strong words with Sam for handing over that car and giving him a penalty to serve at the same time, which is a big shame. But that will potentially promote James Jackson and potentially Jamie Buchanan up a position as a result. Again, we're seeing quite a few of these. I think I mean, we can't say anything, we can't tell them what to do, but I think maybe the guys need to just practice their pit entries a little bit for the next round at Silverstone, because we've seen quite a few speeding in the pit lane penalties so far this evening.
There has been a lot. However, there hasn't been any drive-through penalties, so the drivers they are keeping it within the white lines, as it were.
Yeah, for now at least. There's still got 43 minutes left, so still time for things to change. As I said, it's very easy from experience to get a track warning around this circuit. Especially going through the likes of Piratella here, you go a little bit too wide on that exit curb and you are in for a track limit warning, because it is that kind of corner, isn't it, that kind of it entices you to put the power down as early as possible. But as soon as you do it, if you go wide, you've done it, and there is no possible way of avoiding that track cut warning. You go a little bit too wide, you're done. You get the penalty, and that's it.
I've done it so many times there. I think I did it in one race. I did it 3 laps in a row.
Did it?
And it was only a short 45-minute race, so for the rest of the race I was really sort of like, oh god, please don't, oh please grip. It does play on your mind as well. as soon as you get one, you start wanting to correct your lines, and you ease off that little tiny bit, and it's just enough that a car's going to catch you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see there Rakesh Patel serving that stop-go 30 penalty. And see, Jeremy Jackson's going to go past him now. I think, he's a lap down, so he's not going to take the position on that occasion. And then that probably means he's not going to take P13 away from the number 10 Lamborghini, because if he's that far behind now, that's not going to change.
But
James Jackson, however, James Jackson is going to take that position. You can see, he goes up into P13. So despite that incident on the first lap for Mark Neutelins and James Jackson, they've managed to get themselves back up into P13 by keeping their nose clean. Whether they can get the position on Stiggles ahead as well is another question. Not quite sure where on track Stiggles is. I don't know if I can see from the track map. Can't see number 5. Looks like they're quite a way further ahead. So probably not going to be a position they can have though, but a position that we are potentially going to see change is the one you can see on screen now. Josh Copeland he's got company, and he hasn't had company for a lot of this race, and he has now got the very the irresistible force of Ant Brown in the number 45 Positive Perception Racing Ferrari Audi in his wing mirrors. He can see a lot of that car now, which he couldn't see before, but that just shows you the pace Ant has. It shapes the outside, shapes the inside, and Tabrioli lets him know he's there, but just dips back out of the way and lets Josh carry on for another lap. Just see if he can put him off and try and adapt his line to compromise any exit as we need to. Hello to Sam Waldridge in the chat. He has left the car and joined the YouTube chat. Hello. We have been talking very fondly of your liveries, good man, and it's good to see you jumping into the chat. I hope that Rakesh wasn't too mean to you for giving him that stop-go 30 penalty, but lovely to see you nonetheless. And for anyone who is sitting in the chat and you're part of the race and you want to have a chat with myself and Mark, and just so we can see how the race has gone from your perspective, then you're more than welcome to jump in and have a chat with us either now, or if you want to at the end of the race as well. We have got an interview booth in this Discord server as well, so if you do want to and you're available, feel free to come in and have a chat and we can grill you about how your race is going. But let's wait until we see if there's a position change here, because Ant Brown is turning up the wick, isn't he, Mark? He's starting to probe to see if there's any potential mistakes in that Lexus ahead of him. Yeah,
see, if this was me, I would just be sitting behind Josh. I'd just, put the pressure on from behind. Don't even think about making a move. Maybe occasionally just dip the car, weave the car in and out a little bit. Just distract that driver ahead of you. Like we see there, Josh straight onto the gravel there. You've just got to play the game a little bit. Sit behind them. Make them feel the pressure. You're not the one under pressure. They are.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, just under 40 minutes left of this race. Still plenty of time to kind of wait for that move. You don't have to rush it. And it's quite clear to see that Ant has definitely got some pace in that Audi. He's really clearly feeling very comfortable and confident in that car, and as a result he's able to put Josh under the amount of pressure that he is doing. He's doing a fantastic job, and as you can see, go around the outside into Villeneuve. Can he make the move stick? He doesn't. Just sits in underneath, or in behind, the Elvis Juices Loose number 15 Lexus, and waits for another couple of corners. Good evening to Paul Hayho, who is apparently finally tuned in. The good thing about that, Paul, is you can go back and watch all of the action. Don't do it now, wait until the race is finished, but you can go back and watch this once the stream is finished. It'll be on the channel for you to see and watch at your leisure going forwards. But at the moment, we're going to focus on this one, going through Piratella. Josh Copeland under pressure from Ant Brown. Ant Brown is forcing the issue a bit here, going around the outside into Aqua Minerale. He's not going to make the move done there, surely not. He's going to look to the inside. He's going to compromise the line for Josh Copeland as they race up the hill towards Variante Alta. They are almost door banging there. You can see a little bit of contact between, a little bit of door rubbing. The BMW behind is thinking, I should probably sit clear of this, and the move is done. And Ant Brown, after a couple of laps of pressure, has managed to make Josh Copeland succumb to the pressure from the Audi in the number 45 Positive Perception Racing car. And the car that started on pole, after a little bit of an issue, dropped down to P5 before the pit stop changes happened, has got itself back into P1. And that is an inspired drive so far in this stint from Ant Brown, Mark, isn't it? Because he has been relentlessly quick in the second half of this race.
That is classic Ant Brown, Code Brown Motorsport. give him the car and just tell him to go nuts. Basically, that's what Alex has done. That's fantastic.
Yeah, really, really good stuff from the number 45 car. Brilliant work. And look, let's not take anything away from Alex McGee as well, because he had still a lot to work to do to get that car back up, even after a couple of issues in the early parts of his stint. And Ant has finished that off, and hopefully, I'm sure, he'll be thinking he can drive off into the distance and put a little bit of space and time between himself and Josh Copeland in P2. Kiki Mack in the chat is suggesting that Marcel Stange needs to slow down a little bit, to be honest, but I'm sure he's thinking about the fact that McKinley, his teammate, is a little bit further up the road. Before that, though, Kiki, don't worry. He's still got to get past Niels Brewer. However, as you can see, they're right up against each other on track at the moment. So it seems a matter of time that the fastest man on track at the moment will potentially try and make a move on one of his fellow BMW competitors and make himself the highest positioned BMW M4 GT3. Oh, into Tamburello. It looked like Niels was a bit slower under braking there. That's one of those things, isn't it, Mark? When you're as quick as someone like Marcel, you just need to be a little bit more cautious maybe on the braking zone, because people aren't going to brake as late as you. They might not be as quick, and that was a prime example of that, and nearly caused Marcel to have an incident there.
Yeah, we've seen it in the positive perception league. You get the aliens in there, especially when they're lapping traffic. They're not anticipating the same braking zone. They're going to brake where they want to brake. They're not necessarily wanting to brake where you need to brake to feel confident to get round a corner. So Marcel just needs to take a deep breath, give it another lap, try again.
Yeah, absolutely. Still 36 minutes left of this race, and Niels Brewer looks like he's a man on the ragged edge. He's trying to hold on to that BMW. It seems he's really he's sliding around some of these corners. You see him sliding through Minerali. There is McKinley ahead on track going through Variante Alta, so that gap is not very big. So I'm now beginning to understand Kiki Mack's worry, shall we say, in the garage of the number 7 car. Matt says we're doomed, apparently. You never know if Niels can put on the biggest and staunchest defensive file contact between the two of them. I'm not going to blame Marcel Stange for that, I don't think. And that just looked like Niels Brewer just got a little bit out of shape coming out the first Ravazza. And again, one of those very difficult to avoid. A little bit of a nudge. It remains to be seen how much damage has been done. I wouldn't have thought it'd be too much, but that will put a halt a little bit, Mark, to the advances of Marcel Stange, and that keeps McKinley just a little bit more comfortable for at least another lap or two. Oh, as they go into Tamburello again, it's nearly a rinse repeat of what happened before. Again, just not judging that braking zone properly. And Tamburello, as he gets the move done. Goodness me, that was close racing. Again, an assertive move from the number 11 SWMD car. Gets the move done, but again, very, very, very close.
And he's gone, wow. I don't think I've ever seen anyone overtake there or in any form of motorsport on this track. That's an amazing move.
Yeah, really impressive stuff. Got the move done when he needed to, and almost in a way, and I don't mean this in a bad way, almost scared Niels Brewer off the track, it seemed. It just seemed like he got out of the way coming out of the final apex of Tamburello. And now Marcel Stange is going to focus on JP McKinley. You can see he's just going up the hill in the Celtic Bromance car. There's the gap. It's not very big. In fact, no, that's not the gap. Sorry, that is the gap to one of the back markers. That is Kerjmank in the middle of the two there. As we can see, Neil Stiggles has come into the pits, as has Poe. I would have thought that Poe's stop would be scheduled because he did pit a little bit earlier in the race, so might have to do another splash and dash at the end. I'm not sure whether Stiggles' pit stop is strategic or forced. We'll remain to see. Hopefully, we'll get some clarity on that in a few moments' time. But there's the gap between Marcel Stange and JP McKinley, and JP has probably got a little bit of sweat on his brow now because that is the fastest man on track, who's going very quickly, and he's got one car between you and they're a back marker, so he's going to be on you relatively quickly, my man. So yeah, might be quite difficult to hold on to that fourth position, but you never know. I've never seen JP McKinney race in my life before, but I don't know how good he is at defending. He's going to have to be pretty good, Mark, isn't he, to try and hold on to that fourth place?
He certainly is, given by the moves that Marcel's already done. He's already passed the back marker. So he is now a man on a mission. He is hunting down the golden eye.
It seems only a matter of time. Is it a case of when rather than if? Well, that remains to be seen as they come out of Tosa up the hill towards Piratella. There is your gap. That is to the tune of around about 3 seconds based on the distance between the two of them as they go into Piratella. JP McKinley goes a little bit wide, misses the apex, but doesn't lose too much time, you'd have thought there. Didn't quite see how Marcel Stange took that corner, but I'm sure it was rather quick indeed as they go into Aqua Minerale down the hill, one of the lowest parts of the track, and then straight back up it. That car is going to be willing that Aston Martin up the hill towards Variante Alta. And look at the closing distance already. He's probably gained about a second in the space of a couple of corners. He is on the ragged edge and he's so quick.
Seeing him through the chicane then, I mean, he took all the curve and just gained probably 0.2 of a second straight away.
This is a man who has certainly got some pace in whatever machinery. It's the Bentley, of course, in the Positive Perception GT Championship. It's the BMW here in the Positive Slip Boys Endurance Championship, and he is very, very close onto the back of JP McKinley. It is a matter of time, you would think, and I hate to say it, Kiki, but I think you might be right. I think the math says you're doomed, and the pictures are telling a similar story, because he is closing that gap hand over fist, and it seems only a matter of time before he's going to be all over the back of that Aston Martin and will start to force the issue a bit more. The question remains, what's the gap between P3 and P4? Is that going to be something that Marcel can gain as well? As we can see, Kershmank in the 24 BMW is still in, or has gone into the pit lane, and is dropping down a position as a result. Look at that gap again. He closes it so much. Coming out of Tosa, he's all over the back of JP McKinley now. The question is, Mark, where's he going to make the move?
I wouldn't want to call it. I genuinely wouldn't. This is just, I mean, yeah. We've seen him, third corner. I've never seen anyone overtake there. He could do it anywhere on this track, and blink and you're going to miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. You see running up the hill towards Variante Alta out of Aqua Minerale. He's a bit too far back at the moment, so I don't think he'll make a move here, which again, it sounds like he could do. We're going to go on board into the cockpit, into the helmet of Marcel Stange. Look at the X, he gets out of Variante Alta. He's alongside, coming down the hill towards Rivazza 1 and 2. He's going to have the inside line into the corner, so you would think that move is going to be done. It looks like it is. It's done before they even reach the braking zone. Marcel Stange take a bow. Oh, he's gone wide though, coming out of Rivazza 1. Is he going to be under pressure? He probably is now. He's going to get a good exit. It looks like he's just about got a half decent exit, but the benefit for JP McKinley, he's going to have to run all the way down the start-finish straight, but it looks like the gap is increasing. He's weaving his Marcel to try and keep the slipstream away. He needs to stick in the back of that to McKinley, but he's not going to be close enough. I don't know what he's got in the back of that BMW, Mark, but it seems like he's got some rocket fuel, because that thing is quick in a straight line. And even though he made the move earlier than he probably would have wanted to, he's pulled away and he is up in comfortably into fourth position.
I've lost for words, How does he do it? Absolutely incredible performance from Marcel there. No disrespect to JP McKinley, he's a fantastic driver as well. It's another level, absolutely another level. Mate, what could have happened if Marcel was further up the grid? Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I don't think Marcel was the driver in that team who qualified. I think it was his teammate who did the qualifying in that one. So maybe a way of giving Marcel a bit more fun, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to say that he's making it fun by doing all of this, but he certainly seems to be enjoying himself out there nonetheless. Now he'll turn his focus in the final half an hour to that of the 23 car of Jamie Purcell, who, since changing over from Andrew Wellborn, hasn't had it all his own way. He's dropped from P1 to P3, and Ant Brown and Josh Copeland have made those positions, and they lead and are second respectively on track. Niels Brewer is your man on camera at the moment. He has got a little bit of pressure forming from Matthew Davies behind, and he's got a back marker in between them. That is the back marker of James Jackson, I believe. Looking, yeah, that is the infamous grayscale BMW M4 GT3 car of the 666 Positive Perception racing car. And you can see there, just in behind, is the Lifeboat Legends number 99 car of Matthew Davies. So he was one of those people who fell susceptible to the advances of Marcel Stange a few laps ago. But he's now going to be trying to put the moves on Niels Brewer and see if he can make a move like Stange did a couple of laps ago. He's got to try and get past James Jackson first, who seems to have some pace of his own mark. He's not going to be, I mean, he looks like he's not going to be getting out of the way anytime soon, because it seems to me he's got the pace to potentially try and get past Brewer and try and unlap himself.
He's definitely got Mark Neutling screaming in his ear, going, "Go on, you can do this," or however Mark talks.
I hope he doesn't listen back and think anything of that impression.
If he does, I don't care. Mark knows what I think. But no, James has really grown leaps and bounds, so to see him teaming up with Mark was fantastic. So if you see him move over there, that's a really good idea. Sit behind this battle. Just use their slipstream, save some fuel. It's clearly learnt from the experienced hand of Mark Neutling, who is a fantastic guy, a fantastic racer. Always one of the best people to be around.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very quick guy as well. And as I said at the top of the broadcast, very difficult to get around as well, which is the kind of thing you want in a race such as this, because if you are at that end of the field, you want to try and stop yourself going down the field and try and get yourself up there, and if you can stop people getting past him, then that will help as well. But now we're going to change our focus to the battle for P6. Matthew Davies, as you said before, in the Lifeboat Legends number 99 car, is closing in on Niels Brewer in the number 40 machine, and very, very close going into Ravazza 1, almost to the point where they're making a little bit of contact going into the apex. Doesn't on this occasion, through the second corner and onto the start finish straight. I don't think he's going to be close enough to get any move done into the first couple of corners, but he's going to be using all of that slipstream to continue to try and catch him up. And just confirmation from Kiki Mack in the chat there, yeah, we're not fighting Stange, saving a bit of fuel for the time being, as Matthew Davies goes up the inside of Tabioli as he can try and get it stopped. Oh, he just gets onto the sausage curbs and leaps the car over the first apex and loses a bit of time as a result. He's lost probably the best part of a second and a half, you would say, and James Jackson, you would think, will be sensible enough to sit in behind the number 99 machine and just wait a little bit longer, and I'm sure he'll get some clear air before too long. But that looked a little bit too late, a day late and $1 short, didn't it, Mark? Because it looked like Matthew just maybe braked a little bit too late and really kind of struggled to get the thing stopped.
Yeah, I'm wondering, how old are those tyres? When did he pit? I can't even remember. The tyres are going to be getting really quite worn now. Two stints on one set of tyres is definitely not possible. So you're going to be running at least an hour, and at the most you're going to be running an hour and 15 minutes on a set of tyres. So they're going to be starting to feel that a little bit slidey now that they've lost their best. So yeah, maybe we're going to see stuff like this happening, a bit of sliding.
Yeah, absolutely. People starting to struggle on worn rubber, but Davies he's really in the middle section of the lap. He's really kind of gained the gap back again. He's closed back in very quickly onto the back of Niels Brewer. And I suppose the question remains is, with Kiki Matz talking about their fuel saving, is JP McKinley, is can they catch, or can Matthew Davies catch the Aston Martin of McKinley before this race is done? 24 and a bit minutes left in this race. We've still got to see whether anyone's going to come in and do a splash and dash at the end. You would assume a few of them at the top end will not. Ant Brown, you would assume, will not. Marcel Stange might have to, and JP McKinley, you'd assume, based on what Kiki said, won't be doing that. But here you go, goes to the inside. Can he get the move done on this occasion? Niels just shapes the outside, gives a little bit of room, and interestingly, despite the fact that room was given by Niels Brewer, Matthew Davies didn't manage to get the move done sensibly. Maybe just tries to get out of the way. You can see they're making the move into Villeneuve on this occasion, gets the move done. Niels Brewer leaves the door open, makes it relatively simple in the end, I would say. I don't think that was architected, but didn't make it too difficult for the number 99 machine to get through, and that is Matthew Davies up into P6, and will now turn his focus, you would assume, to that of JP McKinley, who's going to be a little bit further up the road. And Niels Brewer has had not the best of stints, you would say, because he has dropped down a few positions since taking over the car from Alex Osborne earlier in this race.
Yeah, it's certainly going to shape up. We've probably got this straight to the chicane is the gap now, so what's that going to be, 7 or 8 seconds? It's not going to be masses. If McKinley is doing the fuel saving, as Kiki says, maybe Matt Davies isn't doing the fuel saving, and that means he's going to splash and dash, so JP is safe. But We just don't know. This is what makes this racing so fascinating, so amazing to watch and commentate.
Yeah, absolutely. No one knows what's going to happen until the end of it. One thing that can be sure, though, is the leaderboard and the timing chart as it stands. Ant Brown, as you see on your camera now, is leading this race in the number 45 Positive Perception racing car after the stint from Alex McGee at the start of this race. Josh Copeland, who's running solo for tonight, is sitting in P2 with Jamie Purcell rounding out your top three at the moment. But the man on the move is that of Marcel Stange, fastest lap of the race so far and sitting in P4. He'll be closing down, I'm sure, on Jamie Purcell. I don't know what the gap is right at this moment in time, but I'm sure it'll be closing lap by lap, I have no doubt. JP McKinley sitting in P5, and as you saw there, Matthew Davies going up into P6, making the move on Niels Brewer. Alistair Baldwin, who's your man on camera at the moment, sits in P8, and then you've got you've got Parker and Fulton rounding out the top 10. Kurjmank and James Jackson sitting P11 and P12. Rakesh Patel in P13. Jamie Jenkins, who is that Audi at the back of the field you just saw a moment ago, sitting in P14 with Jamie Buchanan and Poe rounding out the grid on this occasion. 16 of the 17 cars running that started the race. Of course, we lost the number 43 Aston Martin a little while ago of Daniel Lewis and Matej Stenko, which was a shame to see, but not quite been the war of attrition that sometimes endurance races can be. Everyone managing to carry on as you were. This is Jamie Purcell going into Tamburello for one more time with just over 20 minutes left of this race. And the question is, what is the gap back to Marcel Stange? You can't see him on the track at the moment, so it looks like potentially with just over 20 minutes left, he might well be safe from there. In fact, I can just see, so the number 11 car is just coming into, I think that's coming into Tamburello at the moment on the track map. So at this moment in time, and again, let's say at this moment in time, assuming there's no mistakes from Jamie in the last 20 minutes, potentially he's going to be getting a top three come the end of this race.
Yeah, and that'll be a fantastic result for the slip and grip guys. So Ant Brown, Josh Copeland and Jamie, they're all the slip and grip team. They've come from that community. Obviously, I've poached Ant to be one of my team drivers. Same with Alex, but they are at heart, they are slip and grippers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to see them doing well, and I'm sure you're quietly very pleased with the fact that there is a Positive Perception car at the lead of the race at the moment. I have no doubt. I mean, I'd be very happy if I was in your position. I will be happy to admit that, and even more happy considering the fact they were down in P5 before the pit stop changes happened. So really good work from those guys. Obviously P1 in qualifying by a little margin, and then now P1 coming into the final 20 minutes. Poe, as you can see, coming into the first of the two reverses, he's got the BMW, I think that's of Kurjmank behind him on track, but of course a lap or two ahead at the moment. It's been a bit of a difficult test for Poe, of course, as Mark mentioned earlier on in the broadcast, racing solo this evening. Kevin Straw not able to attend tonight, unfortunately, so Poe having to run proceedings on his own, but done an admirable job considering he wasn't really sure he was up to the pace. He's kept his nose clean, been in very little contact with any of the drivers, and as a result is going to be picking up some well-deserved points if he can make it to the end in this final 19 and a half minutes.
Exactly, there's points all the way down, so it's always worth it, always worth keeping on trucking.
Absolutely, there is no need to not finish this race, I don't think. You should have every reason to do it, and as you said, it's always nice to see getting some points for your troubles as well, which is what you want at the end of the day. Points mean prizes, as we always say, and they'll be very happy with some points, no matter whether the guys get yeeting over the curb at Piratella there, which was not necessarily the ideal line, but a line nonetheless. That probably is more of the ideal line, because that's your fastest driver on track at the moment. Marcel Stange, saw his last lap was a 43.2, which to put into perspective, I'm not saying I'm the quickest guy in the world anyway, but I can do a qualifying lap of a low 42 on this track. So he's doing that in the race with a heavy laden set of fuel and probably some quite worn tyres on, and I can do that with very little fuel and fresh rubber. So he's rather quick, is Marcel Stange.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not no slouch, is he?
No, no. I mean, his best laps are 1:42.8, I think I saw, and then his last laps are 1:43.2 or 1. You know, that's incredible consistency. You know, you always want your best lap to be close to your last lap, or your average lap. You know, so to see him doing that, as you say, worn tyres, fuel load. We don't know what fuel load he's on. That's just phenomenal.
Yeah, really eking every bit of performance out of that BMW. Still only in P4 though, so no podium for his troubles just yet, but with just under 18 minutes remaining, there's still a potential chance for that to change, although as we said before, the gap to Jamie Purcell ahead in P3 is quite sizable right now. Ross Parker in the Slip and Grip Automotive team, driving with, I can only assume, relative John Parker. Don't know what the relation is, as anyone's able to clarify that, but I'm assuming they're related, or either that or just coincidentally have the same surname. Was one of those drivers who was a little bit in the wars in the first stint, was under a bit of pressure, lost a couple of positions, had a little bit of damage carrying, presumably from that first lap incident we saw, containing 4 or 5 different people at the start of the race. But after that, I've kind of settled into a bit of a groove. Probably a slightly more uneventful second stint than the first one, but that's given them the chance to put in some decent lap times and really cement that position at the back end of the top 10. It looks like Alistair Baldwin a little bit further up ahead in the field.
Are we keeping you up, David?
Sorry?
Are we keeping you up?
Apparently so. I need more caffeine. I haven't had any delivered to me in the recent hours. Like I say, I've been a busy boy today, so I need a nice lie down after this. But yeah, coming towards the final knockings of this race, 16 and a half minutes left to go, and as you can see, Ant Brown still leading this race after getting past Josh Copeland around about 15 to, it was about 25 minutes ago now, actually. God, that time has flown past. It's around about 40 minutes left, if I remember correctly. Got that move done past the number 15 Elvis Juice is Loose Lexus, and has really he's really not looked back since. He's not setting the fastest laps of the race. He's leaving that to Marcel Stange, but he's doing all he needs to do to hold on to that P1. Jamie Buchanan, you can see on your screen the Dunn Motorsport Positive Perception 750 machine. I know that's your chosen number, Mark. Why is 750 your number of choice, out of curiosity?
It was 75 when I first started sim racing, which was actually just a number my girls gave me, my kids. They wanted me to have a number they could remember, so I got them to pick one number each. And then I did a sim race, and somebody had chosen 75 ahead of me. So I thought, well, let's just add a 0.
Well, there you go. It's always the simplest reasons are the best ones, I think, in terms of figuring out why you've got a certain number on there. Mine's 5 personally, because it was the number I always used to play football in when I was younger, and normally when I played in number 5 I didn't play half bad. So Jamie Buchanan, oh dearie me, had a big moment coming into Piratella. It looked like it was too hot and heavy going into the apex, and had to get the counter steering out, and fortunately stopped your beloved Ferrari, Mark, from going into the wall.
I won't lie, I did just have to hold my breath a tiny bit there, Jamie. Please don't do that to me again. Oof.
Yeah, have some polite words with him after the race, I'm sure. Just say, if we could avoid doing that in future, that'd be great.
Yeah.
See, he's got James Jackson just in behind him. He's a lap or so ahead of him now. Certainly been a slightly less eventful stint for James than it was for Mark at the start of this race, but good to see he's managed to get themselves back up the standings a little bit, just off the top 10, so sitting in P12 at the moment. Again, probably a little bit too far back to make any more moves up the field, unless any mistakes or final last minute pit stops or any splash and dashes come through to finish us off. As you can see, I mean, that tells you they're probably a bit too far away, definitely from a top 10, because that is Craig Fulton in the number 17 BMW, just coming through the second Ravazza, so he's not actually far behind James Jackson on track. So yeah, a little bit too far away. So that position, sorry, going to be changing anytime soon. I'm so sorry. This has come over me and now I can't stop.
It's fantastic. It adds to the quality of the stream. I hope you're enjoying the stream. I do apologise that I'm having to manually flick through the cars. The software I was using decided to crash on me partway through. But thank you for bearing with me with my first ever actual main race TV style stream. You know, I appreciate all that are viewing and that will view. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I will say, well, actually, in fact, I'll come back to that in a second, Mark, because I see Ant Brown is in the pit. Interesting, because I would have thought he's actually gone down into P2. He's lost the lead to Josh Copeland. I'd have thought that car would have made it to the end. They pitted quite late.
That was a splash and dash for sure. He was not in the pits for long there.
Yeah.
He did say, you know, they might have to. Knowing Ant, he's got a heavy right foot, so. But I think there's still going to be time to catch Josh, maybe.
He's going to have to catch JP Purcell as well, because you can see there he's actually, the time in town not quite updated yet. He's down into P3. So Jamie Purcell gotten promoted up into P2 as well. That's Marcel Stange in the background. Goodness me, this is going to get a little bit spicy for the back end of the podium. Yeah, not entirely sure what's happened there. I can see there's been a change for P5 and P6. That is Matthew Davies has made it past JP McKinley. So that fuel-saving tactic has backfired a little bit for the Aston Martin, because there's been a change for position there. Paul Hayhoe has mentioned that, and just as that happened, we've seen that change for position. As you see, yeah, big change. I'm not sure if that was maybe a mistake coming out of the final corner for JP McKinley, because to lose that much time when that's only just changed suggests to me maybe a little mistake from the Aston Martin driver. But Ant Brown has now got a bit of work to do. It was looking comfortable for the number 45 Positive Perception Audi, and as a result, as that pit stop they've just seen, they'll splash and dash fill up with a little bit more fuel. It means he's got a little bit of work to do coming into the final 11 or a final just under 12 minutes of this race, and he's got a little bit of pressure to cope with as well, because that is your fourth place man, the fastest car on track at the moment. That is Marcel Stange, who is very, very quick indeed, and is not too far behind. He's about 2 seconds adrift of the Positive Perception car at the moment. So the work that Ant has to do, it would have been very, very easy were it to be with the fast car on track behind him. And just confirmation there in the chat from Alex McGee, if we fuel save for a one stop, it would have cost us over a second per lap. Now, I'm not sure what the gap was between Ant and Josh Copeland, but at the moment, I mean, obviously we can't as we know, Mark, we can't suggest what the difference would have been if they'd done that, because we can't simulate both at the same time. At the moment, that's a decision that has potentially backfired, because they've lost the lead of this race.
It's all about the maths, and I hate maths.
I'm with you on that. I am not a maths fan. That's why I get applications to manage how much fuel I need for races, rather than trying to figure it out myself. I'm terrible at it. And there is your number 2 car. That's Jamie Purcell. So this is all three cars. So second, third, fourth, going into the final knock-ins of this race are very close together. You can see the straight between Piratella and Tosa between them. This is going to spice up quite nicely in the final 10 minutes, which is exactly what we wanted to see. And it's exactly what you said, Mark, because you've left that strategy call open as a organiser of the championship. It's meant that this is going to make things rather dicey in the final few minutes, which is exactly what we want to see.
Yeah, and just looking in the background there, Ant is coming under pressure from Marcel.
Yeah, exactly. You can see confirmation from Kiki Mack in the chat. 007 not locked up into the penultimate corner, but we're very, very tight on fuel anyway, so might have saved them in terms of that. So yeah, probably gives them more of a chance to fuel save a bit more now potentially. But yeah, going back to what you said, Mark, Ant Brown has, the gap between himself and Marcel Stange has closed quite quickly, you have to say. But then again, the gap between Jamie Purcell and Ant Brown has closed quite quickly as well. It's going to be a very interesting final 10 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, so do not go anywhere. I can see on the track map that the next car on track is that of Josh Copeland as well. He is currently going into Tosa, I believe. So he's a little bit further up there. Yeah, you can see they're just going into Tosa. He's got the car of, I think that's Alistair Baldwin ahead of him on track. So it looks like, again, assuming he doesn't have to pit himself, does Josh? It looks like he might be in for the race win at this stage, but the battle for second, third and fourth is where it's all going to be. So we'll get back to that in just a second, and we'll see exactly what's going to happen. You can see Marcel Stange has made the move. Ant Brown has lost the position to Marcel Stange. Unfortunately, as Mark mentioned before, we've lost the replay capability, so I can't tell you exactly how that happened. I would assume, again, it was a rather assertive move from the BMW driver, and he's made himself up onto the final step of the podium. And look, if I'm being honest, Mark, if I'm in Jamie Purcell's shoes at the moment, I'd be a little bit worried I might be losing out on a podium in these last 8 minutes.
I would definitely be having brown trousers right now. But knowing Jamie, he's a ruthless driver. He's not going to give an inch. But I mean, Marcel just closing up there. He's going to get a heck of a run on the main straight unless he goes for the pass into the final corners.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's not really been given a chance to get himself ready for, has he? Marcel Stange has appeared on the scene very, very quickly indeed, and he is all over the back of Jamie Purcell, having to brake on the apex there as they go out the final corner. Oh, as that Brand goes to the inside now, so they're side by side, going up the main straight, and looks like Marcel Stange got a little bit on the gravel there, so that's slowed him down. That's given out Brown the chance to get back into third position, and Jamie Purcell has got two very quick cars behind him, but he's quick himself, and he knows that, and it's the battle for P2, and Josh Copeland will be licking his lips knowing that time between him and P2, P3, P4 is going to be extending by the corner if they continue to battle as they are, going through Tamburello for one more time. And it looks like Brown's got a really good run, but so has Marcel Stange. He thinks to the inside it's going to be three abreast, is it? No, they're going into Villeneuve, and a little bit of nearly contact between the two of them there. That was so close. Between that of Purcell and Brown. Brown shapes to the outside. Can he get them round into Tozer? But that's going to give Marcel Stange a chance to get the inside. Bit of contact between the two of them. It looks like they've still carried on going. The trees have obscured our view, but they've managed to keep going. And Marcel Stange is up into P3 once more. They're going side by side up the hill towards Piratella. Brown is going to have to yield at this stage. And this is exactly what he's not going to, though. Goodness me, he's going to go around the outside of Piratella. It's not going to work. And goodness me, I could take a breath. This thing's cooled down for a split second, but that was incredible stuff. Going into Aqua Minerale, and Purcell goes wide, and Marcel Stange and Ant Brown get the moves done, and that is not the way you wanted that to end. It will remain to be seen whether Ant Brown can put Marcel Stange under any pressure into the final 6.5 minutes this race, but that is been thrown away, Mark, by Jamie Purcell. It looked like he just locked a brake and went wide, and that was his second place completely gone up in smoke.
I am pretty sure I could see the hand slapping the steering wheel in frustration then. It just looked like he got his braking just so slightly wrong as Ant Brown drifts his way through the final corner. That's going to compromise his exit speed. But yeah, poor Jamie, my heart goes out to him, to lose 2 places in one corner just because of a simple, tiny error. In the final 6 minutes of a long endurance race, he's going to be absolutely kicking himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just watched it back on the stream, obviously, because we can see that a little bit being delayed, obviously, because it's broadcasting onto YouTube. I just looked at it, and it looked like he missed the initial apex of Aqua Minerale and then slid, like you say, just got the back end out a little bit going into between the two corners and just couldn't make the apex. It's a real shame, and not how you would have wanted that battle to end. But for the few corners that was proper hardcore, all action, elbows out racing between all three of them there. I still credit Ant Brown for the audacity to try and keep the move around the outside of Piratella as he's just gone through there. I don't know how what was going through his mind to do it. It nearly worked. But fortunately, it kept him close enough to be able to capitalise on the mistake from Jamie Purcell, and it's all change. So a moment ago, it was Ant Brown leading, Josh Copeland second, and Jamie Purcell third. We've now got Josh Copeland in the lead, Marcel Stange in second, Ant Brown in third, and Jamie Purcell down into fourth place. It's Matthew Davies sitting in fifth on track at the moment, with JP McKinley sitting in sixth. It's then Niels Brewer sitting in P7 with Alistair Baldwin in 8th, but he's just come into the pit lane, so that's presumably going to promote Ross Parker, who you can see on camera at the moment in the Slip and Grip Automotive car, number 89 Aston Martin, up into 8th place on track. And then you've got Craig Fulton and Krujmank in the next two BMWs, and James Jackson in P12. Rakesh Patel, Jamie Jenkins, Jamie Buchanan and Poe rounding out the 16 remaining runners. As you said, we've just lost the one in this race, which was the number 43 Aston Martin of Matej Stenko and Daniel Lewis. JP McKinley has got a little bit of work to do at the moment. He's got I think that is the positive perception car, the 666 of James Jackson, so he's all right for the moment. And there you can see Matthew Davies going past. Oh no, that's Alistair Bulba, sorry, in the pit lane. So he carries on. He's just exiting that at the moment. So I think he has maybe held on to that position. We'll wait for the timing tower to reshake itself out, but it looks like he might have gotten away with that little splash and dash at the end. Yeah, it looks like he might. No, he hasn't done. Sorry, no. Ross Parker, you can see there on the top of the tower. You see, yeah, timing tower will set himself up in a minute. Has got himself up into P8, and that's dropped Alistair Bolton back down to P9. So again, Mark, as we said before, strategies. If you can hold off making that pit stop, it looks like that's going to be the best way to serve you towards the back end of this race.
It certainly does, and I bet the number 2 drivers or whoever's into the chat box on YouTube here watching the stream, they're going to be taking notes. They're going to be watching what the other drivers have done, what the other teams have done, and they're going to bring that to the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Silverstone is the next round on the 19th of February. We then head over to Spa on the, if I can remember the date, on the 12th of March. Kyle Army on the 2nd of April, and then the final 2 rounds are at Donington on the 23rd of April and Suzuka on the 14th of May. So 6 rounds in total, tri-weekly. So every few weeks we'll come back and we'll do another one of these races. So make sure, if you haven't done already, first of all, make sure you like the stream if you enjoyed the broadcast this evening. And if you haven't done already, make sure you've hit the subscribe button on the Positive Perception YouTube channel, so that when we come back in a few weeks' time at Silverstone, you can see all of this all over again, and you can see whether these guys have been practicing their pit stop strategies and see if they can extend these races to a one-stop in future, because that seems to be the chosen path of, or the path of least resistance and the quickest race strategy in this one, because those who've done that, I'm looking at Josh Copeland and Marcel Stange as an example, have benefited over the fact that Ant Brown has, of course, dropped down into P3. A minute and a half left in this race. So there's going to be, I believe there's going to be 2 laps left. I don't know where the leader is on track at the moment. There he is, coming through Variante Alta. So that's Josh Copeland coming through the air. So one more lap after this one we will have. And it looks as though the Elvis Juices Loose 15 car is going to be running through to take the victory in this inaugural Positive Slip Boys Endurance Race Championship, round 1 here at Imola. And the man who's run solo, and he's had a lot of work to do in this one, because of course no teammate to support him. He's had to do everything on his own. He crosses the line, sorry, on the penultimate lap, and starts what will be the final lap of this race. He's been relatively quiet, has Josh, in this race, Mark, hasn't he? Apart from that move made by Ant Brown and him a little while ago, probably about 40 minutes ago now, that happened. But it just shows in these longer races, if you can keep your nose clean and keep things as uneventful as possible, it will serve you well in the long run.
I think it's one of the Le Mans guys that used to say, the race is won by not pitting, and Josh is absolutely just, what a guy. He's kept his cool, he's just driven his own race, and that's what you've got to do. Sometimes you've just got to switch off to everything that's going on around you. You've got to ignore the gaps. You've just got to drive to your rhythm, drive to your pace, and Josh has done that.
Absolutely, yeah, like you say, it's not the person who's fastest you need to worry about, it's the person who is most consistent, and it seems like Josh has done that very well indeed as he comes through Aqua Minerale for the final time. The timer has hit 0, the white flag is out, so this will be the final lap of this race. He comes through Variante Alta for the final time, hits those curves perfectly, hits his marks as he needs to, and comes down the hill to the final couple of corners, the first of the 2 Ravazzas, the 2 double left-handers. And he will get onto the start-finish line, and he will come through to win the curtain raiser of this Positive Slip Boys Endurance Championship here at the Autodromo Dino de Ferrari at Imola. Josh Copeland in the Elvis Juices Loose number 15 Lexus will come over the line. The lights will be flashing. He'll be a very happy chappy indeed. He's gone solo tonight, but he will take the win in this first race. He hits the checkered flag, and that is P1 for Josh Copeland. Marcel Stange, who inevitably wasn't too far behind in the end, will take a strong and commanding P2, and Ant Brown will be your rounding out of the podium in the Positive Perception Racing Team, the number 45 car. Jamie Purvis reversal will come through. A little bit of drift after that mistake going into Acqua Minerale with just 10 minutes to go. He will come through in P4 for the AMW racing car with Muskoka Brewery, the 23 machine. And Matthew Davies has done a fantastic job in that Lifeboat Legends number 99 machine to come through in P5. Again, a strong job from him indeed. JP McKinley in the first of the two Celtic Bromance cars will come through in P6, whilst Parker will come through in P8 with Niels Brewer sitting in between the two of them in P8. Alistair Baldwin and Craig Fulton round out your top 10. Dimitri Kurjmank will come through in P11, James Jackson in P12, Rakesh Patel and Jamie Jenkins your 13th and 14th place runners. The 750 car of Jamie Buchanan and Colin Dunn come through in P15, and then Poe, who again is running solo tonight with the absence of his teammate Kevin Straw, will come through in P16. What a race it was from start to finish. We've had action from the first moment to the last moment, and Mark, what a way to start off this season. That was a fantastic curtain raiser for this one.
I'm tired, and I can well imagine those guys are tired. What a race. What a fantastic race. Hats off to the winners, commiserations to the losers. Incredible, absolutely incredible racing. I'm just so impressed by everyone tonight. Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good work done from everyone in the race this evening. Of course, only one driver in the end wasn't able to make it to the end, or one team, sorry, wasn't able to make it to the end. That was the number 43 Pepega Motorsport team, made up of Matej Stenko and Daniel Lewis this evening. Of course, a disconnect midway into the race meant they weren't able to continue, which is a big shame. But I'm sure they'll be back and ready to go for the next one. We will sit around for a couple of minutes. It's not the Pepega race team. It was the Brew SW Sim Solutions team. I do apologise. I'll get the details right before the next one. Don't you worry. But we'll stick around just to see if there is to be anyone wanting to jump in and have a chat with us. But if not, we will round up the stream and we will come back on the 19th of February for the next round at Silverstone. And then, as we mentioned, there are 4 rounds to go after that at Spa, Kyalami, Donington Park and Suzuka. But yeah, if that is the way we're going to start things, Mark, I know I unfortunately won't be able to commentate with yourself in the second round at Silverstone, but if we're going to get another round of that and another 4 to follow after that, this championship's going to be really, really interesting.
It's going to be absolutely epic, as it already has been.
Absolutely. It's been a fantastic one, and we will call it there, folks. But thank you very much for watching. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the stream. If you haven't done already, then make sure you hit the thumbs up button on the video so you can get it out to all of your friends and family going forwards. And if you haven't done, then make sure you've hit that subscribe button on the channel as well to make sure that you see the next 5 rounds in this series. And finally, if you want to get involved, then make sure you jump onto the Discord server and you can get yourself in with a chance of getting onto the grid for the next 5 rounds as well. But on behalf of myself, David Wressell, and my co-commentator and broadcaster, who does a fantastic job for his first ever streams, we'll give it a round of applause for him. And Mark Raddenbury, thank you very much for watching this stream. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you again on the 19th for the second round at the Silverstone circuit. Between now and then, have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.